to go out here, Milosh, and beat MIBR. They need to.
What did they need to fix coming into today, Ollie?
We talk about Doki a lot as a player that has a great deal of impact into a round, and often he can be a guy that goes in and finds 2 kills on the entry, not just 1. He hasn't been doing that. He's not been able to consistently come away with that entry. In fact, everybody on the side of Navi is currently negative or neutral on the entry. So that's already something that we know is going to hurt them, because if they are going to be sending Doki in, he's not able to get those kills, he's not got that info, or things aren't going well, then that already is going to be a bit of a knock to their typical play style of how they like to bring things. Somewhere else that they're struggling is just in flat out every capacity. You know, you look across at the stats, the costs are all pretty low around the board, all around 50%. Nobody's really highly rated, nobody above like a 0.90 rating. So it's just overall a bad performance. We just need to see everything be better.
Our map veto, what will change in it, if anything? Remember, we have a 7-map pool. It's ban, ban, pick, pick, ban, ban, pick. Let's start off with our 2 bans and 2 picks. Demo, take us through it.
Coast ban? A little bit of respect there, I think, showing to MIBR. I think Navi, their team, who they have the gun skill, they can definitely play those kind of frag-heavy maps. Although we've seen them do it before, but not wanting to go against MIBR, and that is, you know, Brazil and Coastline is a big favorite in that region. Bank ban from MIBR. A bit of a personal preference, I would say. Navi, I wouldn't say that the biggest bank team. It's not a map that really strike me as, yeah, that's their map. But we look at the picks. We've got Clubhouse straight away for Navi. I don't know how I feel about that one. I suppose it's a great neutralizer, a great equalizer, isn't it? Every team can play Clubhouse.
Yeah, I think MIBR recently lost on Clubhouse as well in the Latam qualifier to Black Dragons, so there's maybe that getting thrown in there as well. Chalet, great map for MIBR. It's no surprise to see that be played. I think, you know, this is a very much a case of win your own map and win the decider, because the decider being Oregon, we go back to that great equalizer, we go back to the 50-50.
I can't believe Chalet has been picked by MIBR, because that is, for me, historically Navi's best map. I think if any map that Navi can go out and have a god-tier performance, it's going to be Chalet.
I'm very much looking forward to this matchup as well, but it's not the only game that we have ready for you this morning, all your friends watching at home. Dema, Ollie, thank you very much. You're going to break things down for this game when it is done, but we still have another one to prepare for. It's Team 1 versus OXG. Let's bring up our NAL analyst and get the show on the road.
My name is Nathan. I play for Natus Vincere, and I play the role of support. Before this year started, they made 2 changes, bringing me and Secretly. Yeah, we've stayed together ever since. We brought more of a backbone to the team, I say, like supportive mindset. Because before they had players like Joe and Doki, obviously very aggressive entry kind of roles. So I think we just made the team more like a round, more like equal. Well, with stage 1, I think we were all like fresh, like the motivation was like really high, obviously new team, all that sort of stuff, and everyone played their individual play style.
Dorky with another big kill. It's as if Navi are just worrying about the diffuser and Dorky is worrying about the kills. Secretly gets one from the hatch and it's again falling apart for G2 no matter what they try to do.
If that kind of makes sense, but I think as we gradually, like in the team for longer, people wanted to play like more of a structured way, more of like perfect siege kind of gameplay, but I don't think a perfect siege will ever like do well. So I think slowly, that's what it is. Stage 3, it was a mixture of that and just lack of motivation, I'd say, from the team. Like it was just like energy being put into their game. But I think we're slowly working our way back to getting that natural play style back in and not trying to play the perfect siege, quote unquote. Obviously, well, we're feeling confident. So I think. Top 4 would be a really good result for us, at least. But obviously everyone's going to say they're aiming to win it. But I think top 4 would be a really good result for us. I mean, I think we have a set plan, like the way we play the game. But I think there'll be like small adaptations, and if those adaptations are made, majority of them will be made before the game, whether it's like strategic or like operator ban wise. But I mean, like mid-round, we all like individually are smart enough to know like cool adaptations. So watch out for Doki. I guess one-man team, isn't he?
Welcome back, friends, to the command center. It is time for our second matchup. We're going to break things down before we get into it. 2 games launching at once here, live again from Stockholm, Sweden. I'm Miloš Stemetic, your host. With me are my NAL desk experts. Jesse and Jacob, friends.
We both just do finger guns at that exact moment.
We did. That was good.
That was finger guns.
On point.
We're in a Vulcan mind meld again. This just happens every time.
Honestly, every time I see finger guns, it just makes me think of Emzo. So shout out to my old duo.
I didn't even think I picked that up from him, but yeah, no, that's a good homage. Yeah, and what's that phrase that we keep on quoting from Emzo more often than not? Something about holes working both ways. Yeah, something like that.
I've been hearing that since 2016.
How sick of that are you currently? It's because it's been
not at all, actually, because there are very rare true statements that continue to be true for many years in a row, and that one has stuck very, very well, and will always be referenced to Devin Becker, my old duo. Whoever will be in my heart. He's still around, by the way. Just so you know. Not
right.
I wasn't about to be like rest in peace or anything, but yeah.
He's actively, just not actively on the shows. Anyways, that aside, we got some matches to go through and one to prepare for. First up, Team 1, our Brazilian team that has, are they calling them Team 1 just because of the amount of points they're going to get here in groups?
Oh, you don't have to do them like that, Mila.
Zinger up from last night? Jeez, man.
This is Team 1's final opportunity to get points. They have a bye tomorrow, so they're really hoping they can get some rounds here, get a couple of maps off of OXG. They're in a tough spot, currently 4th place, and Na'Vi right on their heels. They do have tiebreak over Na'Vi, so there is a little bit of hope there, but this is still a desperate situation for them. They've had a really rough tournament so far. Of course, the Mexico Major champions had a lot of expectations coming into this one, but they've mostly fallen flat. If Alamount wants to put on another pair of pink shorts and lift another trophy, it has to start here.
My concern is their mentality coming into this tournament. If they already kind of knew, because of the whole last dance thing that we've seen on Twitter from the past couple of days, that this team composition wasn't going to remain exactly the same post-SI, I wonder if that's them chanting in the background. If they knew that this lineup wouldn't be the same, then how are they coming into this tournament? Was it just, it's one more ride off into the sunset, we'll give it our all, but if nothing happens, no big deal? Or were they actually here attempting to win? Because if the lineup's not going to stay the same once this tournament's done, I just don't know whether their mentality coming into SI was worthwhile to play with to begin with.
True, but I will give the extra caveat on top of all of that is that, you know what? In Mexico, where they had their miracle run, and we're starting more and more to call it that sort of a miracle run, they barely scraped out of the group. on a technicality where they had to replay a game to get them out of it. But once they were out of it, they were in the game, winning time after time after time. I will give them that, but it is up to them to prove their weight in this matchup. We only talk about what we see on the analyst desk and what we can predict, but more than that, it is on the players for them to perform in the matchup itself. That's Team 1, but on the other side is OXG, a team that is done actually fairly well. They had a day off on day 2. They went up against Damwon Kia, but who's not losing to Damwon Kia? They got a chance for extra points today and just cementing their position in their seeding.
I feel like for Damwon, that was just the kind of hurdle that no one's been able to tackle so far. But for OXG's sake, the only thing that they've done incorrectly in this tournament so far is not finish out that first map against Damwon from yesterday. I mean, obviously the rest of the series just kind of spiraled out of control. But for North American teams, it feels like the one issue that you'll face is a really good first map performance, but you won't have enough gas left in the tank to finish the first map, and then the second one's kind of a wash. It happened for Space Station from their series against Team Liquid from 2 days ago. It happened for OXG. It happened for the Sonics against Team Empire to open the whole series up. There's just a North American trend. OXG, though, against Team 1, I just love the matchup on paper. We call OXG sometimes a Latin American team in a North American league, so I just love how this dichotomy of squads should go up against one another today.
The One Boys are excited, but they do have a tough opponent, OXG, and they had a really hot start against Na'Vi. They dominated them in their opening match of the tournament. You guys have talked about it. I mean, the Damwon game, it's such a difficult team to go up against, but they did still play pretty well in that first matchup. I think got a little nervous partway through that, but you know, they sharpened up, and I think they're going to be really ready for the rest of this tournament. As long as they're comfy, as long as they're feeling themselves, we keep Fox leading the team, we keep the young gunners fragging, and I think this team is looking just fine this group.
This is something I had a chat with Fox in this morning. Really like sitting table to table on the other side of the restaurant, just screaming at one another. It's like, hey, what was it for you? You know, your last game yesterday against them. Like, honestly, we choked out. We lost that first map and it really spiraled us out of control. They're a great team. Like Damon Kia, he said it himself. They're a great team. We messed up, but that was our mistake, and we should have beaten them. Honestly, the way they came back against us, they kind of deserve the points anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I was in that restaurant and I saw Laxing weirdly getting more of the eggs that he was complaining about earlier.
I thought he learned his lesson.
I didn't question him on that. I hope he's doing okay. Doesn't have to take any bathroom breaks. But listen, I talked to him about the problems, and he mentioned to me, like, you know, some of the players, they were getting a little nervous, and I think that makes sense when you look at their play. You know, it felt like they were kind of playing very passive reserve defenses when they were playing against Damwon Kia, really not wanting to go out and go for the roams. That was a big thing on Oregon.
Stitch.
And we've got the Stitch back. I thought that wasn't here at the event.
I thought it was too, yeah.
Okay.
Hanami's family.
They've got it now, and hopefully that can help them get it on the roam a little bit more, because an auction esports that's not roaming is an auction esports that's not winning.
That's the formula I want to hear.
Yeah.
I see you got
It's
it.
tweetable. I did put it on the TL later. That was good.
Good thing we're on a 4-minute delay. I'm going to run that right as soon as we get off.
Look at that. Oh, look at that. Good stuff, Kino. I'm happy to see that back. So, no, the one thing I will say about OXG, even though Team 1 has been to every single LAN so far from 2021 onward, like SI plus both majors, OXG's run back at SI from last year was still something that exceeded expectations to a pretty insane degree. And the Sweden major, was a bit of a wash. But hey, I'm looking at this hoping that they'll be able to pull something back.
Here's our veto. Ban, decider. Jesse.
Well, we're starting off with a ban from Team 1 onto Clubhouse. This one makes a ton of sense. Team 1, you know, they don't like this map. They avoid it as much as possible. OXG going for the Chalet is a bit of an odd one. I thought there were some options for them there, but I don't hate it, banning out the Chalet. It's one that they have tried to play a bit, but unfortunately hasn't been the most successful. Coastline is a interesting pick from Team 1. It's not bad. Certainly Team 1 liked their coast, but I just feel like for Oxygen, I mean, they're undefeated on this map for the entire year, save one game against the Sonics in the NA Finals. They brought it back for Na'Vi first day of SI and cleaned it up 7-1. That one's a question mark for me. Oregon makes loads of sense. That's what I predicted Oxygen to pick, and I think it'll be a very comfy map for them.
Bank is one that OXG have played, I believe, only twice over the past 9 months or so, and they've lost it twice. And it's a really good map for Team 1 by comparison because they've at least won it a couple of times. So if we need to go to a decider, I think 1 probably has an advantage, but both of these maps are ones I do still think OXG have a pretty good chance of just taking the entire series 2-0. It feels like something that Team 1 have done a couple of times throughout this tournament. In this group stage, they've picked some maps that their opponents also seem to favor at least somewhat heavily, and then if they need to get to a third map, that's where they're like, okay, that's our trump card. That's where we know we can secure the series for ourselves, but they haven't been able to get to a third map in the majority of the series that they've played, and OXG is a pretty darn tough opponent with a plethora of maps at their disposal. I'm concerned for Team 1 from this ban phase because I just don't know if they have the tenacity to get all the way to map number 3.
I say OXG's scary team coming into this event, finally all together playing as well. Might as well be the best NA team at this tournament. Who knows?
Maybe.
I mean, TSM's still here, but I do think they're looking great.
It's looking pretty hot. We're going to have to see what happens here between them. That's OXG versus Team 1. But on the other side, like we said, Na'Vi versus MIBR is happening at the same time. So let's kick both games off and get this day 4 on the road. Enjoy.
It's time to start our very first matchup here, Nick, on the main Rainbow Six broadcast. I'm Intero, joined by Pengu, and we're starting things off with a very crucial match. Na'Vi and MIBR square off, and on the other stream, with the Team 1 game going, one of these two teams in Na'Vi or Team 1 can actually go home today, and we might see our first team eliminated from SI.
Yep, now we're really getting into the nitty-gritty here on day 4. We might start seeing teams entering that danger zone, and in this particular instance, it's Na'Vi or Team 1 where, well, if you don't lose, it's really in a bad position, so right now it's do or die. And more so than that, in this Na'Vi MIBR matchup, we're seeing the first map of Clubhouse. Neither team has showcased it yet at this SI event, so, well, we're gonna go into unknown territory.
With the ban phase being what it is, Na'Vi actually walked into that ban phase having played 5 of the 7 maps. The 2 that they hadn't played were both Clubhouse and Chalet. Whether Na'Vi is officially eliminated or not, they're still gonna end up playing these 2 maps because we've got Clubhouse first, picked by Na'Vi, and Chalet picked by MIBR. Let's waste no time. MIBR, the team that squeaked into SI just a week and a half ago through the LATAM qualifiers, they're here. They're going to be playing up against Na'Vi. The EU squad still looking for their very first victory. Na'Vi might end up going home. They're playing for a spot to go out of groups, but in the positive way. We'll get underway with the ban phase. Na'Vi will be starting on defensive Clubhouse.
Yeah, ban's going out right now. Na'Vi starting off with that Maverick ban, and MIBR says, you know what, that's a pocket pick sledge ban. This is extremely uncommon, especially on Clubhouse, and this will really affect the verticality of that basement bomb site attack, but that should just be about it. It will also, of course, impact the grenade utilization, because Sledge will always bring 2 grenades, and he's typically played every single round, and with him off the board, you might need to substitute nades somewhere else. Kite follows along, and then Na'Vi can say, well, last defender, what will we make that be? It will be the Wamai. Quite a staple pick as we have progressed throughout this tournament. More and more teams seems to be favoring this ban on a multitude of maps. Also, as Parker mentioned earlier, no matter what happens in this matchup, Na'Vi will have played all 7 maps, and as far as I know, they will be the first team to have done so. Hopefully, for their sake, they can do it on a W, but at the very, very least, they will do it on a loss. I mean, they're
really setting the expectations for them there.
7 maps is pretty good, whether you're losing or winning.
We'll talk about this a bunch throughout the course of this matchup, and we want to remind you right off the rip that there is a second stream going live as well on the other channel, Rainbow 6 Bravo. Go on over there because Team 1 are also playing for their lives. Here is the scenario presented. It was actually tweeted out by our analyst, Fresh, good old Jack. If Na'Vi wins 2-0, and Team 1 loses. Doesn't matter what Team 1 lose by, whether they win a map and then lose, doesn't matter. Team 1 is the team that gets eliminated from this group. If Na'Vi wins 2-1, so they drop a map against MIBR, but Na'Vi still wins, and Team 1 lose their game, unable to get a single map, then Team 1 is also gone. If Team 1 wins, doesn't matter the score, and Na'Vi loses 0-2, Na'Vi is the team that will go home. Now, when we say go home, there is still another day for these teams to play. We have our final day of groups tomorrow. But then, once tomorrow's finished, we go into the lower bracket and the upper bracket run because this is a double elimination event. Only 1 team per group will go home. And right now, here in Group A, it's going to be either Na'Vi or Team 1, and we might know who it is at the end of this matchup. We'll keep our eye on that, and we strongly encourage you to keep abreast of both games so that you can follow along at home.
It's so great seeing teams here at the Six Invitationals, and it's so sad to see them going home, but someone has to be that one team, and right now fighting for our lives, we have Nath up on that top floor roam, trying to get active. Raps, of course, with the Finger LMG, has a great gun in hand, and actually, MIBR, they 6-picked onto the floors. They want more explosive utilization. That's probably because that Sledge is off the board, and you can do quite some verticality with the Retero drones.
It's a downstairs defense for Na'Vi, but Nath, and I just want to take a second here, Nath actually had to leave the lobby because he'd made his name Nafe, N-A-F-E, which funny enough tends to be the way that the British say Nath. He went from Nathan to Nath to Nafe, but now he's back to Nath. I was hoping it would stick. He was patrolling up top, trying to waste time. Not unusual for teams to roam heavily on a map like Clubhouse, especially when you're defending that bottom floor bomb site. At roughly the minute mark into the round, he's fallen off. So the drones will come out for MIBR. The discovery phase, as we like to call it, is underway. Na'Vi safely inside of the bomb site, patiently waiting for MIBR to continue to rip up the floor that we see happening right now. And a nitro cell will go. Some of the floor ripped up, but it's explosive from Na'Vi, and the very first kill of the series goes to Blur.
It's a really good opening pick, not just for Na'Vi, but for Blur himself. Blur's a player we've spoken of, especially on the analyst desk. We want to see more from him. If anything, we expect more from him. And he's been pretty quiet throughout this tournament so far. He's had his moments, especially hiding in corners, ratting around, and making some pretty ridiculous plays. But on that scoreboard of Na'Vi, most players have been quiet. Doki has some good rounds and some good moments, but Blur, he has to join him. He wants to join them. And so far, he's done just that with the opening pick onto MIBR's Finka.
The big focus for Na'Vi is whether Doki shows up. That is the question mark. That is in every single match. When Doki does well in a map, the rest of the team tends to succeed too. He and Blur will be the two kill getters, if you want to call them that. The fraggers, which is the official terminology. With the upper hand in terms of kills, MIBR now will walk in down a single player. Rayduct on blue. 2 EMPs left, and he almost takes advantage of it. He actually gets the pick onto Blur before Nath trades it back. And with that aggressiveness, Nath just pushes right up. Still on blue, ever so patient. Doki there side by side with Lukid on his own. He gets swung on by Doki, an easy collapse for Na'Vi. Falls, takes it back with a kill on a secretly, but saves with a shotgun. And Doki, to finish things off, gives Na'Vi round number 1.
MIBR had a pretty good entry into site. What you guys didn't see that happened was basically that they went out the kitchen hatch, they smoked off that church long hallway double door into church, they dropped down, and then Falls was kind of figuring out whether he could plant or not, but Navi had a player inside of dirt. Falls figured out he could indeed not plant, and MIBR trying to flood the bomb site and find kills, finding map control and opportunities to try and get the diffuser planted, but ultimately Navi, they had the better gunplay, they got more kills, and we all know when it's X versus 0, you always tend to win the round. Just like if the clock hits 0, defenders tend to take the round unless, of course, the diffuser is planted. Then you go into OT. And Blur, once again, on the Bandit, which we can basically say that this will be a CCTV bomb site even if we can't see. Doki just wrote my name in chat, I think. He said, "Yo, Pingu."
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a message, but that's it. It's yo. I spoke to Doki earlier on Twitter. He was tweeting out something like, "Yo, we gotta play today, whoop whoop, you know, happy vibes." And I said, Doki, it's do or die. You gotta pop off, my friend. Doki got 2 kills in the very first round, arguably popped off the most for his team, as just Blur with 1, Nath with 1, Saves with 1, but Doki, he had 2. So good job for you, Doki. You've now done what we spoke of, popping off. But 1 round is not enough. And MIBR, they have players of their own that'll be popping off continuously. So it'll always be about the next round, the next round, the next round until we are through.
Upstairs to Cash and CCTV, second defense now for Na'Vi. We talk about how there are 3 bomb sites that are most commonly played on Clubhouse, that church bomb site down below, Church Arsenal. You look up on the top floor, the very, very top floor on your screen. Well, no more. There you go. There it is. Cash and CCTV where we are, and then just a little bit to the left, we'll move over ever so slightly to Master and Jim. There is a bomb site on the first floor called Bar and Stock. We saw it yesterday. We didn't think we would, but it still popped up. So teams have been keeping some strategies hidden in hopes of catching your opponent off guard. With Thatcher being available, EMPs go off onto that CCTV wall. 2 Selmas tossed out. The breach is now wide open. The wall has been torn down, and that is decent timing for MIBR. But some teams will wait till the very end to do that. Others will open it up and then go about doing their due diligence elsewhere. Tons of hard destruction from MIBR in the hands of both the Ace and the Hibana, and some of those X-Kairos are used to poke a hole into the defense on the reinforcements of Garage, giving you line of sight up to the rotate at the top of rafters.
Yeah, so the reason why Thatcher being open is so good with the Ace is because the timing on the Selma charges, which is Ace's gadget, is quicker than that of Bandit tricking. So you can throw out an EMP, throw 2 Selmas, 1 goes on each panel of the wall, and the wall will guaranteed be open, practically rendering Blur on that Bandit useless. Now, all eyes are in secretly because MIBR, they want the garage take. They do not care about master bedroom. They do not care about gym. They want garage. They want the server breach. Secretly, has the FMG, has the 1x scope, has the toxic babes. 2 already tossed out, and with 1:20 left, it'll be a more and more difficult position as time goes on. Not many players from the side of Navi can help out. Poor secretly, C4 gets tossed out, but Reduct takes it out so easily.
Not a single kill yet. 1 minute left in the round. Rayduct will be the first one to do that, softening up secretly, and the smoke is unable to fire back, so he'll fall with all of his utility in his pocket to boot. That's not exactly what you want from an operator who try to choke off the attackers. Tons of time for MIBR now to position themselves towards the breach and get the default plant off. Is there a nitro cell below? That'll be the big question. We can see from the right-hand side of our screen that Nath is the only player that has an explosive at his disposal. Rayduct's still on catwalk, and this is such a powerful position to be in. He can cut off the cross from Cash. He can also watch the top of red stairs, so lots of flexibility on his end.
Absolutely, and now Rita trying to cut off this radio door, and MIBR, they want to try and plan, but Falls once again push in deep. Velipox finds a kill onto Blur, but what now? Doki is next to follow, and MIBR, they have full side control.
Nathus is going to retake up top of red stairs. Diffuser surrendered, but there's just too many bodies from MIBR to watch, and like that, the bloodbath ends with it being Na'Vi on the wrong side of it. MIBR come back in triumphant fashion. bursting through the breach, taking control of Red Hall, and killing every single player of Na'Vi. In the process, these teams are tied up at 1 round apiece.
Normally, support players with the diffuser, they would like to plant down the bomb. Falls is a different kind of beast right now because he's in the position, he could be going for the plant, but he makes the call to his team that, guys, we're gonna do this, we're gonna push through, because if we start planting and 1c4 from Nave hits us, that could be quite dire as time was ticking down. So they push on through, they utilize the man advantage that Redot had gotten earlier. Felipox followed up, then it was Falls, and then the plant doesn't have to go down, even though Falls gets taken out. There is a trade coming out from MIBR's side. They get the round, and now Na'Vi, they're going to bar. You just said, Parker, we don't see it very often. Yesterday we did. Both defenders won at once and attackers won at once. And Na'Vi, bringing out the mirror, I really like this. It complements the bomb side so well because typically teams want to extend up above and the mirror really helps you with that. You don't have a lot of information, you don't have a lot of good ground, so to speak. The mirror windows, they help tons with that element of the map. And Doki on the Valkyrie, and such an important operator because you need information if you want to use the vertical ground you've gotten by holding Master Bedroom. That's an issue we saw in yesterday's games where once the attackers had cleared out all the information on the bomb side, well, the defenders didn't know where they were planting. And then it doesn't matter if you have the ground up above because you can't floorbank somebody who you don't know where they are.
I mean, how many times on Clubhouse yesterday did we see somebody walk in and nade from below? How many times on Villa did we see the exact same thing happen?
Oh boy.
Teams are using their drones and those yellow pings to tremendous effect, devastating effect if you're a defender. Affectionately referred to as depth charges by Lycan. When a team gets below you and nades you, and there's no real counterplay except for holding that portion of the map. The only way to prevent getting naded from below is to play down below and stop them from being there to nade you at all.
Not wrong. I think it was Merc from TSN that tweeted out, if you guys had to guess, how many kills are from grenades, not just from below, but overall? And I said, rough guess, Merc, about 50%. It's a lot of grenade kills.
It is quite extensive. And even though we can speculate, oh, maybe you can bring a rook, etc., not always the suitable operator for that. So, as we are in his home country, we have to give a shout out to Bikini Body and his thought process, but ultimately bringing a rook does not solve that. Now, let's focus on the unorthodox occurring on your screen. Again, it's a bar stock take from MIBR, a bar stock defense from Na'Vi, and there's a small hindrance on that wall of stage. A small line opened up. The Selma's not perfectly aligned. That means that the attackers cannot just walk through all willy-nilly. They're going to have to crawl on in or try to take out the line in the middle. This means their job is going to be much harder. Teams do like to favor the plant by the bomb chassis, by the jukebox, but they can also go for one by billiards. First pick of the round goes to Raps, LMG in hand. You're going to see a lot of those LMGs available.
Here comes the
grenade as well. From below, a depth charge, but it misses. Doki sees the reader, sees the alert, and gets away. But does he know where they are below him? He'll drop and make some noise heading towards Lounge. The Finka is watching that intently. Raps lined up and could potentially get the kill. More spam marks in, but Doki doesn't swing the right way, and Raps is quite eager to take him down and cut him down to size. 1 minute to go, and Adrenal Surge burns off to try and give some extra HP to the MIBR players. There hasn't been a lot of this top floor control from MIBR. They're looking to get it, and they are doing it so well, almost flawlessly, but Blur swats away Felipox. Diffuser in the hands of Falls, the remaining 3 members from MIBR, tasked with finding Blur and his position. But he'll shoot through the floor. Does he know where he is? There's a mark, but he's going to completely miss the Diffuser getting planted down. Blur still from this spot, and he gets Falls, but guess what? It's given MIBR more than enough time to get upstairs with the diffuser down and the timer working in their favor. It's 2 rounds in a row for the Brazilian team.
Maybe you don't need information after all to take them out vertically, because I don't think there was any yellow pings there, but still Blur found an incredible wallbang to get the injure, but in a 1v4, that only makes that a 1v3, and that's just not enough. There are so many more remaining players from the side of MIBR, and I will say, Na'Vi. Now, that has 2 rounds in a row. Now, the first round on basement defense, you're playing close together. That's the nature of the basement bomb side. And you won the round. It was quite good. You traded out kills. Success. Second round of CC, we saw secretly on the catwalk rafters, all alone with no help. He died early. 5 versus 4. They lost that round. Now on bar, similar story. 2 players from Na'Vi fell completely alone with nobody nearby to help. No trade, nothing. And thus, being put in a 5 versus 3. The name of the game right now has been whoever has gotten the opening kill has also taken the round, because in the first round it was Blur C4 that got the opening kill. Navi also got the round. Following 2 rounds, MIBR got the opening kill. They got those 2 rounds. So Navi gotta play more together at the very least. Try and play for those trades. So if it's a 5v4, make it a 4v4. That way you're gonna be in even numbers, and you really need that right now.
Na'Vi in so many matches in this event have just looked off in terms of where they're getting pressured from. Every single round, we have to ask ourselves, how is Na'Vi communicating? Is there a breakdown in the way that this team is talking to each other? In his interview, one of the things that Nath spoke about was how Secretly has been a fixed point for this team, bringing both guidance and also a stronger sense of IGLing for this squad. Well, it might work in the EUL, but in terms of international events, it has not really paid off for this Na'Vi team. And at some point, these consistent issues that teams bring to international events, well, you need to ask yourself what can be done to solve it. This is something that a team like Cyclops has struggled with, Sandbox has struggled with. They make it to a lot of events, but they don't make it out of groups most of the time. Right now, the team that most people have in their crosshairs in that regard is the Sonics, but they are proving everybody wrong at the moment. I think for Na'Vi, since their win in Tokonami, you have to look at them with a very critical eye, because they consistently underperform on an international stage, and a lot of us don't know why that is. Something needs to be fixed.
Even in the EUL, they finished 8th place in Stage 3, and they got 3rd in the EU final. They lost their very first match against Team Empire, who's also here at this Invitationals. And Na'Vi, they don't have much LAN experience with this current roster at all. In fact, they have basically none. So this is really the first time these 5 players are sitting down together at a LAN event. Sure, they've bootcamped, they've met up before, they've done practice games and scrims, etc. But it's not really the same. I really wouldn't measure that up against the likes of playing on the biggest stage of the year of Invitationals. Yeah, it's group stage. We're all chilling, we're all vibing, but trust me, the pressure is on these players, and they want to win oh so bad each and every round, each and every map. MIBR making good work of the map, but Na'Vi actually playing the clock quite smartly. They're falling back 1 room at a time, and they've killed a couple of drones, and most importantly, all 5 players are now alive.
Very risky from Nath as the bullets rain down through blue, and MIBR just narrowly miss out on a very first kill. The last 2 rounds that MIBR have won, they managed to snag that first kill both times. So to do that again would set them up quite well. You see only 2 X-Kairos being used, and that will try to draw out the impacts from that Na'Vi team. Secretly will use 1, another one goes out, but he knows that it's just a matter of time, because now 4 can be thrown down, and unless MIBR has been keeping count, that should be the kitchen hatch opened up successfully. But there's a Nitro Cell from Blur on the Reduct. The Thatcher will no longer be in this match, but that's okay. There's no Kaid, so your Thatcher EMPs are not going to be stopping you, or rather granting you access to those hatches any better, because there's no claw to get rid of. All that said, while these hatches have been opened up, there's been no actual fragging outside of the single death to Reduct. Na'Vi look far more comfortable on this bottom floor bomb site, but now Doki is gone. That's some blue control, but not all of it. Nath is still in that position. MIBR just narrowing down Na'Vi's numbers, and MIBR has a substantial advantage, but there's not a lot of time left. And with things being dire, Na'Vi has just the diffuser to go after, a Nitro Cell tossed out, and it connects both of them. Oh my God, Nath. What a shot. MIBR prioritized the player and not the explosive, and it ends with a bang. Na'Vi tie the game.
Almost every single kill that round from Na'Vi was from an explosive C4. Blur found 1 in the opening kill, and of course Nath literally closed out the round. I thought that would only hit the planter, but no, I was wrong. It hit both players. Raps and Phillypox both got downed by it, killed from it, and of course Na'Vi clawed the round back. What looked kinda dire, MIBR, they played the round smart. Na'Vi, they played the clock, but eventually when it came to the execute, MIBR, they struck from everywhere. They had 1 person inside a blue, 2-person motor door on the last player pushing up the long hallway. The 2 players left from Na'Vi's defense were just getting swarmed on the bomb side. But Nath, 1 dream, 1 C4, and won round 1 single-handedly. He's now 5-2. Back on the mute, back on the C4. Blur, same story. Back on the bandit, back on that C4 as well. And they've both done a really good job so far. We've still yet to see Secretly get on the board, and he's been playing crucial positions, which means 2 things. 1, it's important he does well. But 2, it's really difficult to do well in these positions if your team isn't helping you properly. Last time we saw CCTV, the defining factor for MIBR's success was they got catwalk control so incredibly easy. Nobody from Na'Vi was helping out Secretly. There was barely any support, just the ADSs, and that's just not enough. So if you're Na'Vi, if you're expecting that same Garrett's take, I would love to see some help. Try and play inside of lounge. Maybe go downstairs inside pit in the basement. Hold that Garrett stairs walk up, if anything, to try and trade out off of Secretly your catwalk player.
So this church bomb site for Na'Vi, very comfortable. It will not be available for the remainder of this first half. They've won it both times, and that's as many times as you can play a single bomb site each half. MIBR will run headfirst into Cash and CCTV for the 5th bomb site that Na'Vi will play. Looks like a successful bandit trick.
Oh, it's the wrong wall.
Wrong wall. Blur had it lined up, it sure seemed like, and then he just heard it wrong. That is a substantial blunder.
Yeah, that's going to make their lives a lot harder because there is no ace on the board. It is more difficult for MIBR to get the wall open, and with it being this easy for them because that 50-50 bandit charge, this now looks a little bit worse for Na'Vi, and more importantly, Raps, he's bringing out the Capital. The Wamai is banned. We need to keep an eye on that fire arrow once it comes out because Secretly he will be lit up quite literally. Na'Vi this time around, they do have support. Doki's playing inside lounge steps and saves also on the catwalk window, which means they are doing what they should be. They're helping out their crucial player. When you got fire arrows coming at your booty, it's going to be hard.
I'm sorry, where?
The booty. The booty, if you will.
Of course. Well, those fire arrows can get caught by a Wamai magnet, but there's no real concern when Wamai is banned, as you said. So teams trade out. I guess no real advantage gained here by these kills.
But it's a trade. Na'Vi hasn't traded like this before. Either MIBR got the opening kill or Na'Vi did. Now it's 4v4. This is what they need to be doing.
Philippox inside of construction. There's a barricaded door. He's got the reinforcement on the wall next to him as well. That's where you assume those X-Kairos will go. Because it's the EMPs that are down, you need to make sure that you've shaken off all of this hard breach denial. Blur still has 2 of those batteries in pocket. I don't know where Nath was, by the way, but he's as good as dead. MIBR still inside of construction. The Hibana still over there. Falls is the one with the diffuser, not the Hibana. But Doki will swing onto it and take down Raps. Oh, completely blind. This is what you need out of him. He's an absolute animal playing off of the bomb chassis. 2 kills for Na'Vi. Secretly now, as well as Blur, the only 2 players that are holding things intact for this team. Ditto for MIBR with Philippox and Lukin. 30 seconds to go. Secretly, bullet rattling away. He's managed to down Lukid. That means that Philippox is the only one left. And with the MP7 in hand, Blur will feast upon the player from MIBR, who in an act of desperation walks into the middle of the bomb site and gets shown the door. Na'Vi cannot lose the first half. They've taken 3 rounds. But on defense, on Clubhouse, traditionally, you want to take 4 of those rounds. I say traditionally because Clubhouse hasn't quite been so traditional here at SI.
No, in the beginning of yesterday, before any games occurred, it was a 38% defender win rate, which is terrible, by the way. Basically meaning that attackers, they win a lot more rounds than the defenders do. So far, Na'Vi proving that statistic to be wrong. Of course, MIBR could still tie it up 3-3. But going back to that previous round we just saw on CCTV, the opening kill, right? If that had gone in MIBR's favor, the 5 versus 4, it would have been a 2v3 towards the end there, making it a lot more difficult for Blur and Secretly to close out the round. So Na'Vi trading back the 1-for-1, even though it was a Thatcher that wasn't very huge value-wise on the board. In terms of gadgetry, it's still very, very important to just play together. And once you do it, you will find more success. I would say the LATAM teams are arguably some of the absolute best teams, arguably the best region when it comes to playing together and playing off one another. Na'Vi can learn a thing or 2 from that, but Secretly now as well, on that catwalk, has found a kill for himself and is on the board. He had good impact in the previous round. Now bringing the castle to the gym defense. That is also, once again, actually quite important.
MIBR enters this event as the lowest rated team globally, other than M&M, who are obviously not on the ratings because they haven't played at a top level and haven't played in any T1 events this year. But of the teams that have competed, MIBR is in the low 20s. So they come in, because of the way that the points are distributed in Latin America, it does skew the results a little bit. This MIBR team finished third, if you recall, in the top 4 of the Six Invitational last year. They are no slouch. They've had a bit of a rough year, but they still have tons of potential. And despite their rating, they are very competitive in their matchups and can very easily surprise. So it's not a given that Na'Vi is going to be able to walk away with the win.
No, certainly not. And you always see the trick here. EMP, someone charging each wall. Nath gets the opening kill into Raps. That's, of course, the finger. Once again, second time in 6 rounds off the board. Parker, you spoke about MIBR having a rough year. They did. Stage 1, Lukid unfortunately caught COVID. He missed 2 of the first 9 games of Stage 1. Then in Stage 2, things were looking better until they weren't. Felipox had a shoulder injury, was forced to play with a controller for multiple games. And then in Stage 3, there were no issue, and they tied second place.
I mean, it's been a tough year for a lot of teams, but for MIBR, it has been just a series of unfortunate events. I'll use that phrase yet again. If you like Lemony Snicket's book, then you will be delighted to hear me use those words together. That said, MIBR, well, they're not really at danger of going out in this group. The two teams that we have our eyes set on are Na'Vi and Team 1. We'll talk about Team 1 when the side swap comes in, as they are currently in action against OXG on the other stream. We'll update you in just a moment. Until then, all 4 bomb sites have been played by Na'Vi. On this very final defense from the EU team, they go to Jim and Master. They played Bar Stock as their tertiary bomb site before. Na'Vi seemingly more comfortable on this bomb site too. Church was their forte. Cash they looked better on, and now Jim and Master, everything is coming together again. With 1 minute to go, Na'Vi sit in a 5v3, having picked off both the Finca and the Zofia. Those are 2 hugely important operators for an execute, but the numbers for Na'Vi will narrow. Secretly down, Rayduct in, they trade off. Felipox is now gone. Diffuser still in the hands of Falls. He's through the breach and heading towards the gym. He sees the legs of one player, but his bullet's unable to fully connect. Falls ends up getting it at the last second on his saves, but he has the Diffuser still. 40 seconds to go, and he's going to have to plant it, leaving Rayduct in a situation to fend off those 3 players. Rayduct just has been dropped down. So he's down but not out. Even more on the shoulder of Falls, and he's walking towards a bulletproof camera and gets swung on by Blur. A shotgun to the chest. Game over for this first half. Na'Vi walks away with a 4-2 lead.
Yeah, Na'Vi looking a lot better on the bomb sites that kind of put you closer to one another. And that's kind of the name of the game for Na'Vi. When they can play close, it does well. When they're spread thin, not as much. And I think it also kind of speaks to the issues Na'Vi has been having this invite and also in the EUL Stage 3. They don't really have the most active players in the scoreboard. Usually, it's Doki popping off and putting up great numbers. And when he isn't, no one really steps up to the place. And at Six Invitationals, the teams that are typically performing the best is because most, if not every single player, is so capable on pulling their own weight. And the difference with Na'Vi is just that that's not always the case for them.
So the first half in the books now. Na'Vi goes on to attack. Usually the worst side on Clubhouse, but like you said, Clubhouse was the most attacker-favored map in our map pool at the start of yesterday. We'll have to look for what the numbers look like heading into today. But let's talk about what exactly happened. Na'Vi took rounds 1, 4, 5, and 6. MIBR taking rounds 2 and 3. Both times MIBR won their rounds. They also got the very first pick. They got the diffuser planted in one of those rounds. Na'Vi got the first pick in every single round they won, except for round 5, where we have to put a little bit of an asterisk because both teams traded immediately, so there's nothing really gained here. The first pick at the moment proving to be a huge deciding factor in this matchup. Now, I'm going to say some spoilers here, and we're going to be spoiling the other game for you because there is more than just the result of the other game. There's an impact this has on the group. On the other stream right now, Oxygen is going up against Team 1. Mute your, or deafen if you don't want to hear what I'm about to say next for the next 10 seconds or so. Oxygen, at the end of their first half, leads 5-1 on Coastline, and that is Team 1's map. So Oxygen absolutely demolishing Team 1 at the moment. We'd like to remind you that if depending on what happens, if Na'Vi wins and Team 1 loses, other way around, one of these teams will almost certainly go home today. That is something that we have to keep watching, because we might be seeing either Na'Vi or Team 1 being the very first team eliminated from SI 2022.
That we will, and so far we are on a basement defense with a heavy roam from MIBR. It's Lukid and Reduct up above, Philippox on the main stairs, and Na'Vi, they're trying to find an opening kill here. They know it's oh so important for them, and with all this pressure applied onto MIBR, they might be falling back earlier than anticipated. They do have the Valkyrie, they do have a bit of information. Lukid with the fastest operator in the game of Oryx, but not much mobility has been found just yet. We're still kind of creeping our way around now, making our way into Garage, where they know this area is clear, but it's just about the only area left that is theirs, because Na'Vi, they have the main stairs, they have Gym Master bedroom, and they also are going to start working their way into bar, and that renders MIBR's roam rather useless, and they will say, we know that, we're gonna fall back, take this, and play the 5v5 on side, just like Na'Vi did.
Oh, they'll clear out that main floor. Na'Vi looks like they have it. 90 seconds off of the board, halfway point of this round. No timeouts taken either. I want to remind everybody that there's one timeout per team per map, not per side, per map. So either MIBR or Na'Vi can slow things down. Na'Vi destroying as much of the floor as possible. Next target will be those hard hatches. That is an interesting choice by Nath, using one too many of the X-Kairos. Need we remind you that Hibana can choose whether she wants to use 2, 4, or 6 X-Kairos per burst.
Yeah.
The only problem here with Nath doing that is that if Nath needs to juggle that hatch around impact grenades, that he might not have the same amount because he's now 2 X-Kairos short.
A very good point. I was going to say the same thing, Parker, but Philippox actually running away, Na'Vi doing a good job at the vertical play, even using Sophia's stones to make sure that this breach goes through. Nave likely doing a good job communicating that he kind of messed up earlier. He needs more support to ensure the breach goes through, because if it doesn't, that would be extremely bad for Na'Vi with just 20 seconds left.
And it's Raps and the Oryx of Lukid watching the drop that's going to come in through the kitchen hatch. The rest of MIBR are over by Church, and they are not particularly interested. As Na'Vi now heads down, Nath manages to evade that toxic canister, getting the diffuser down. Doki, a big double kill, looking for more, secretly falls. Nath is down, but the diffuser goes successfully. Rayduck tossing out a nitro cell. He sees both bodies, catches Blur in the process, but it's a 2v1, and from above, quite easily done, is Saves and his namesake saving the round. What a mess that was in the post plant, but Na'Vi ends up coming out ahead.
I always love watching 5v5 execute sub 20 seconds because it really is either team's chance to get the round. I will say, yes, Saves saved the round. That did indeed happen, but there was a particular player who opened up the round as well for Na'Vi. That was Doki. Found 2 huge picks and also created a ton of chaos from the side of MIBR. And with all that chaos happening, I don't think they were fully aware of exactly where Na'Vi was playing, because they did have C4s, but they were unable to use them. And yeah, I believe it was Reduct. He did get the kill onto Nave, who was planting at the very, very last second, but plant still went through, and now we say tactical pause.
It's like they say, close only counts in a game of horseshoes and hand grenades. In this case, close for hand grenades. It's actually been working out quite well, unless you're Dark Zero.
Oh,
I think back to Sapper on Elevate, playing in the corner of Chalet, and DZ using 4 grenades on him and still not doing even half of his HP. I think this is the right time for MIBR to use their timeout. You've got 5 rounds left to play. At this point, you can still win without overtime. Not all hope is lost. But MIBR will need to win out to take this match without requiring those extra innings. Na'Vi are presently on a 4-round win streak. They seem quite confident. There aren't a lot of deficiencies in the way that they're playing, and frankly, this is a Na'Vi that we saw a little bit of yesterday, but not really all that much more. So they've settled in. MIBR clearly looking like, on this map in particular, they're in a bit over their head. And despite the fact that neither of these teams have played this map here at the Six Invitational, Na'Vi, for the moment, looks far more comfortable. Though I will say that even though those 5 rounds were won by Na'Vi, some of them were quite close.
Yes. Multiple rounds are close, but the one thing they have in common is that, last 4 rounds went to Na'Vi. Last 4 opening kills as well also went to Na'Vi. So it's still the name of the game for this match, and that seems to be a reoccurring factor across multiple games. Who would have thought having more players alive would actually benefit your team? I don't know. Sometimes in Europe, we think of like Shaiko, Citizen from T2, etc., where they can just, we can also talk about Liquid all we want. I feel like we always praise Nesk and Pablo, but that's because they are so good. Having one of those players on your team can sometimes account for 2, if not 3 players of a different team. That's just how lethal some of these players are. And in this game, it's not much different. Most players in this server, if not every single player at this event, is oh so capable of doing great things, but everybody plays different roles, right? We don't expect Secretly to drop 20 kills every game because he's on the supportive role. He brings guidance, IGL leadership, and of course, operators to match. Then we see Doki. Sometimes, most people expect that guy to drop 15 kills every single map when he doesn't. That's him performing poorly. But think about that. Not dropping 15 kills is you playing poorly. That just sets the bar so high for the expectations of yourself and your team. And right now, Secretly getting open the wall. There really wasn't anything in Secret's way. Secretly's way. They didn't even use an EMP. So MIBR not really playing around that EMP economy with the mute.
Actually look very far back at the bomb site. Give me a top-down look for a second here, if we can, please. Yeah, it is completely vacated. The only 2 players that are holding close to the bomb site, they're playing aggressively near it, were what we saw, the smoke on the top of rafters, and then I believe there was another player over at the top of red. First pick goes to Na'Vi yet again. Rayduck decides to engage on the jacuzzi breach that's been opened up, and it is not a particularly smart idea. Na'Vi was prepped and ready for that. They get the early pick, and they have 2 minutes essentially to work with MIBR at a numbers disadvantage.
Yeah, and we saw when MIBR was attacking CCTV bomb site, they always went for a garage take, but Na'Vi doing the opposite and going for that jacuzzi split take with construction as the end goal. You basically want to open up walls on both sides, making it very difficult for any defenders to have any safety inside what you would assume would be the safety net of the bomb site itself. Nave might just get a gunfight here, but Doki's there to support. Beautifully done by Na'Vi, now playing more together, and this wall will get opened up very briefly because there's EMPs left available from saves, Heartbreach on both Secretly and Nave. Now, MIBR, they have to find something going for them here. They do have Toxic Babes, there's no C4s at all, and sure, they even have a single bulletproof inside of the bomb site, but that's not gonna help you, especially if Felipox is injured.
All of Na'Vi now getting in on the fun, and a flawless round shaping up. Felipox is still down, that leaves Raps in a 1v5, and it's an 0v5. Match point for Na'Vi, they're making quick work of the Brazilian team, and a flawless 8th round is what gives them that match point.
Absolutely. Flawless round for Na'Vi, and you know what the funny thing is? That was a timeout from MIBR. That is arguably one of the more sour situations, I think, in Rainbow Six Siege. You take a timeout, the one you have for this map, and then you lose. But you don't just lose, Parker. You lose in a flawless sweep from your opponents. So what do you do next? I think if you're MIBR, you will just run your head into the wall and just want to break it. Because right now, Na'Vi, they are putting up a wall in front of you and you're failing to do enough damage to overcome it.
Na'Vi swapping off of the Zofia over to the IQ. Swapping, whatever. Swapping, whatever you like.
Swooping.
MIBR has every single bomb site open. They can go back downstairs if they want. They can go to cache CCTV again. But no, they decide, let's go with a full rotation as if we were winning. Maybe that's some kind of motivation for them. But either way.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's a bad idea if you're MIBR. You want to try and figure out how can we break apart Na'Vi. You tried on basement, didn't work. Tried on CC, didn't work. I mean, definitely didn't work. Flawless round. Now you're going German. I think that's the right way to play it, right? There's no reason to repeat the same bomb site if it wasn't even that close. And sure, the basement one in particular was a 5v5, sub 20 seconds, crazy amounts of chaos, and a few kills go in the favor of Na'Vi, really swayed the round into their side. But again, MIBR, I don't think it's bad for you to try out different stuff. We see Raps even throwing out a Valkyrie camera on this side of Jacuzzi. That means they can try and play off that, and I hear something crazy going on the other stream. I don't know who is winning, but...
That sounds like Team 1 shouting.
It does.
So, I mean, Oxygen is not that upbeat of a team.
Usually it's just lads of an APEC being that loud, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Twitch.tv/Rainbow6Bravo if you'd like to take a second and watch what's happening on the second stream. The North American team Oxygen is going up against Team 1, and there's actually a comeback brewing right now. I'm not going to tell you which team is coming back, but that game is tightening up. It looked like it was almost certain. Could that potentially mean anything here? No, I guess not. A Nitrocell goes out. Blur with a tag, but he doesn't accomplish anything, and now Doki is the one in the line of fire. He'll hit the Adrenal Surge to give himself a little bit more HP, but the Nitrocell from MIBR is good enough to give them some breathing room, having taken out the IQ. What on earth did we just witness?
They're storming back to the bomb site together, and this is the first time in 5 rounds that MIBR has gotten the opening kill. And not just the kill, but Doki also taking a ton of damage. Of course, Doki still has 2 Adrenal Surges left. He can top himself up, but other than that, only 1 grenade going from the side of Na'Vi. They don't have a lot of ways to clear utility, and MIBR bringing both multiple shields, 2 of those in fact, and also bringing the Maestro Evil Eyes. This is going to be really difficult for Na'Vi. I think MIBR did a good job on selecting the bomb site.
Na'Vi do not want to go for that jacuzzi entrance. You see there's a black eye cam there, giving all the intel in the world to MIBR as to whether or not an attacker will head on through. Instead, because you have that cam up, you don't need to keep any actual human presence over there. The robot, the camera, will do its job while you can watch it safely, maybe inside of logistics or maybe inside of the bomb site. Final minute now to play. Na'Vi still on match point. MIBR need to be perfect to now go to overtime. Before that, we said they could win out in regulation. That is no longer a possibility. With Na'Vi trailing, their job not significantly harder, losing Blur early, as you talked about.
Yeah, it is difficult. It's the IQ of the board, doesn't bring the most utility, but of course, the Valkyrie cameras is going to be difficult to find from the side of Na'Vi, and well, they need to make their way through with very limited utility. Doki on the windows with no grenades left. It'll come down to a bloodbath of gunfights, but I think Na'Vi in the situation, they might have a chance with the LMG in hand, but MIBR, of course, they have 5 guns against 4.
That's a shot opportunity for Nath. Just missed. You can see the amount of MIBR players on cams right now. There comes Doki from this angle, waiting for the call to swing out, and it's onto the alibi. He can't really do too much. No Adrenal Surge for him to be able to get back up. He uses it at the last second, actually, as that bloodbath comes. Nath on low HP. He needs to get the diffuser down with Saves watching, and he'll do just that, flashing on in, but he wants the gunfight instead. He's flashed himself, and he gets picked apart with Saves nowhere nearby. MIBR win with a member of Na'Vi still up because the clock is the win for them. This is a tough spot for MIBR to win, but they need every single round from here on out to go to overtime. That is at least a spirited performance for them to pick up their 3rd round of the map.
Yeah, we see some smiles now coming out. They found their ground for the first time in 5 rounds. Opening kill and the round to go on their side. They're now looking to go back into Church, a bomb site where, as I mentioned earlier, it was 5v5 sub 20 seconds, and it ended up in the beginning with MIBR roaming around the map. This time around, they are hovering the mirror, but they will be 6-picking off it into ... the Maestro once again. They really want to play around the soft breach utility, and that's where Na'Vi fell short in the previous round. Blur recognizes that and actually picks the Valkyrie, the IQ, but 6-picks it off into Sophia because they want more explosive economy to deal with these challenges. I think it makes sense, and if MIBR gets in that early roam to slow down Na'Vi, I think that's going to be their best bet, because if you're not going to be roaming on Clubhouse, you just give attackers so much time and so much room to pick apart how they want to attack and approach it. When Thatcher open especially, that just means it's absolutely free real estate. Church wall, you can breach that. Hatches, you can breach that. Kite isn't even played because it's banned, and there's no wall deny from the side of MIBR. So that means you have to roam, you have to be active, you have to try and leverage an advantage somewhere in the early round.
Na'Vi still have plenty of opportunity. They've also got a timeout. If you look at the way that teams use timeouts, more often than not, a single timeout will net you at least 1 round. If that's all that you need, then Na'Vi will be okay. I mean, that's not always the case, and that's very simplistic. People, I already know that there's people prepping their... Go ahead.
Parker, it's not always like that, you know, sometimes it's different. I know what they say. I'm not one of those people. I think timeouts are great. I think they're fun. And I think oftentimes, or sometimes at least... Oh, who's not having fun right now, Parker? It's Saves.
Oh, there was an engagement early on. Luca took a beating. He'll get back to the bomb site. Thunderbird is an operator that can easily heal you back up. She's not present. That's the only one right now in the current meta that could help MIBR, and also worth noting because we do see a fair bit of Thunderbird on some of these maps. Maybe not on Clubhouse, but on Oregon, on Chalet, yes, we do. And those happen to be the next 2 maps that we're going to go to, so maybe she'll show up. Either way, Luca's not going to be able to get back at all. Thatcher was the operator who died.
Yep. But there's no wall deny from the side of MIBR, so again, not a huge pickup from them. Sure, it is still a kill. Opening pick, we know it's so important, but Na'Vi still has all the tools they need. They can breach any wall, any hatch with this Thermite Hibana combination. Last time, it was majority from Na'Vi coming from that kitchen hatch, with Doki making chaos, I believe a moto door or long hallway. But when MIBR having these Valkyrie cameras alive still, they're going to have more info than last time on the whereabouts of Na'Vi and where the execute will come from. That's going to make Na'Vi's life a little bit more difficult, especially seeing as, well, Saves isn't there to help them.
Oh, lots of soft destruction still from Na'Vi, but they've doubled up on the hard breach. There's no sledge on the board for them, no buck being brought either. There are teams that only use the buck as more of a pocket pick. This is the 1 minute mark, and that Vector of Felipox has found its second target. It's on to Blur. Down goes the Zofia. Na'Vi just surrendering far too much before actually pulling off the execute. The last time that Na'Vi attacked this bomb site, if you'll recall, it was a 5v5 plant with Nath getting off at the last second and dying, and the killing beginning right as that diffuser got planted. Absolute bedlam in the bomb site. This time around, if Na'Vi tries to engage with that, they'll be in a significantly weaker state.
That they will, and you see here the impact trick coming out from the side of MIBR. It is Redog to slow them down, but I believe the hatch got opened eventually. I don't think it'll matter much for Na'Vi, but Doki creeps on in from long hallway, finds the opening kill onto Redog. Can he find a second? No, he cannot. Felipox shuts it down. Luke, it follows up. It's Nath single-handedly on the bomb site, but nothing to find. MIBR, 4th round on the board, and now the comeback begins.
Really wild stuff from MIBR, playing aggressively on the main floor, then transitioning, and you talk about how teams have a soft timer, a soft clock that they follow. It hits the 1 minute mark, it hits the 90-second mark, and we need to get back to the bomb site. Well, usually you do that without any altercations. MIBR got a pick, and they got the pick off of it quite well. What do you...
I'm just really surprised Na'Vi didn't call a timeout. I feel like this would be the opportunity, right? You've lost the last 2 rounds, lost the last 2 opening kills. You're on the attacking side. Things aren't really working out for you. And if you don't win this round, well, then you're just even more close to OT. Of course, you can argue that last time around Na'Vi was attacking CCTV, they won the attack. And they know that MIBR have to go CC or bar because they've locked gym and they've locked basement. They need to go to a tertiary bomb site. That's the only reasoning I can make up in my mind for why you wouldn't want to do it. Or perhaps you still believe momentum is in your favor and you don't want to give MIBR even more time to settle in and get comfy in their shoes.
Cash CCTV, another defense for MIBR. Prior to this run that MIBR went on, Na'Vi won 5 rounds in a row, the last one flawlessly to move to map point. But MIBR now storming back. They took a timeout, they lose the next round, but have been significantly better since then. I think they're playing far more restrained. And when I say restrained, they're actually playing more aggressively as well, but they're not playing recklessly. So it's kind of a channeled anger, so to speak. I wonder how Na'Vi is going to approach this particular problem. They've got 2 hard breachers again rolling with that Thermite Hibana combo that they have quite enjoyed so far on this map. Soft destruction too for them, and a Finka just as the beautiful bow to tie it all off.
Yep. Pretty consistent operator picks across the board from both teams, actually. The only difference from MIBR is that there is no Maestro this time around, but they do have the Bandit to slow down Na'Vi. But as you said, Parker, the Thermite Hibana Thatcher combination, Doki with the nades as well, name a more iconic duo than Doki and opening pick. That's Lukit off the board on the Melusi, so her gadget will live on and still do damage. But again, the gun is off the board. That's Doki's 12th kill as well, by the way, so he's sitting quite nice up there up top. And Na'Vi, last time around, they went for a server breach into a master take. Right now, they haven't gotten that first step. They haven't breached the wall yet because Reduct, he's successfully tricking around secretly. Although, maybe at the very end here, they will finally get the wall open. Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. Now Na'Vi can start progressing through the map. They have a decision to make. Will it be They're already in garage. They already got it.
You're going to ask, what are they doing?
Are they going to go garage? They're already in garage. They got it. With a minute and 40 seconds left, that is not good for MIBR, Parker. This is indeed terrible.
Quite slowly taking up more and more space on that catwalk, on rafters. Reduct has his eyes turned towards that particular area. He doesn't need to watch the main walls that have been opened up, as you spoke of. Falls droned out by the main door, so he will head back towards red stairs, and now some of that reinforcement on the wall leading into the B-bomb has been taken apart.
That it has, and now we need to see what will Na'Vi do. They droned out Falls down below. He has a C4. Na'Vi should know this, but Philippox playing beautifully around it, making sure that his friend is not alone. Now, running to that pool window, might go for a cheeky jump out or a peek or a swing. Doesn't find anything, but back onto Nave, who's starting the plant, but Falls finds a kill. Has C4 down below, doesn't toss it just yet. Nave almost gets the plant. 1 second, sub 1 second, smoke comes out, and C4. It's the team kill that takes him out somehow amongst the chaos.
It looked like the nitro cell was going to work, by the way, so it doesn't matter who ends up killing him. A scramble in the post plant now, saves on Repel. He'll have to watch for a run out potentially. Blur down for the count, and Saves is very vulnerable. A run from Garage, he spots it, and he's just going to continue to be hunted. Pops up, nicely played, but they charge at him down on the ground. Where's he going to go? He manages to almost make it to safety. They have 12 seconds to get in. Will they get there in time? It looks like an almost certainty. Falls is the first one to charge in. He's got 4 seconds, 3 seconds. He's there in time. If it had just been a half second for Saves to get up on the balcony, that would have been the ball game. But MIBR get the pick, get back inside, and then get to the diffuser in time. We will need the 12th round to settle this. Na'Vi was up 6-2. What happened? Well, MIBR woke up. And now we have a competitive match between the two of them.
That's gotta be your timeout right there. There's no way, right? Do you just stick it? Do you just go all the distance, all the way?
Yeah. And it is. Okay. It is their timeout.
Good. I'm really happy, Na'Vi. Great job for you. I would have liked to see it last time, but I'll take it now if I can. MIBR managed to scramble back that victory. The Toxic Babes came out. They thought that was gonna be enough. Then they figured out, oh, Nave is already deep on plant. C4 came down below from Falls. Ended up with Saves, team killing. It wouldn't have mattered. You're right, Parker. The C4 did get tossed. It would have taken him out regardless. It didn't matter at all in the end. Saves, in that 1 versus 4, had 2 players injured and wanted to reload before going up to the platform. That slight hesitation really made a difference because he was about 0.5, so half a second, off successfully getting away with that round. If he had gotten up to that balcony, he would have been safe and could have just held the walk-in from Garage, of course ensured that Na'Vi would have finished it up on their side. Now, Na'Vi, they can talk about how do we approach the next attack. We know it's going to be a gym defense or a bar because basement is locked, CCTV is locked. This means Na'Vi has good information because bar over gym, undoubtedly, unlikely. It's most likely going to be a gym.
Happening. MIBR starting to add tally after tally to the scoreboard for the defenders. Na'Vi taking that timeout. You speculated in the last round that it might have been better for them to do it at that point. Instead, they'll do it now. We'll see what they can do to settle down. If you look at the lineup that's being brought by Na'Vi, nothing has really changed. No, Nick, it's a pretty standard stuff. It's a Yana, a Zofia, and a Thatcher bookended by the 2 hard breachers. As for MIBR, again, they like this lineup, tons of information. But I will say the one change that Na'Vi did was the last time they attacked this bomb site, they brought an IQ. That IQ is no longer present. Blur died early. The gadgetry from the IQ unable to spot any Valkyrie cameras and pinpoint the rest of the layout, the gadgets and the layout on the bomb site. So will a Zofia be any more impactful? I have to say, presumably.
I will say Blur opted to use his gadget for that hatch instead of the breaching charge in his pocket. Not sure if he thought he was playing a Claymore or just was afraid of a C4 passively with the sound cube and placing it on the hatch. Either way, Blur has been the flex player of Na'Vi so far. He played the IQ, played the finger, he's playing the Sophia currently, with the 150, getting that LMG weaponry on his side. That is something that we started to see more and more in the last couple of months. LMGs are really present and really strong right now, and I think it's also a great gun because you're playing against defenders who doesn't have that many bullets in their magazine. They don't have as many long-range scopes either. So the gunplay favor is really on your side, and now Blur will take advantage of just that. He will creep up the main stairs and try and get a freebie. Remember, there's no barbed wire or anything on this staircase. I don't think MIBR are aware. Hold your breath, Floor. You might get opening pick. It's match point. You need something right here. If not, then it will be bad. If you die, you put your team in a bad position, but it's Lukid who falls. Blur finds the opening kill, and that's going to be great for Na'Vi.
And I don't know if MIBR had any idea that somebody was in such close proximity. They've now tagged Felopox into the ring. He's not too far off. Blur might have heard this. Certainly seems to have that sixth sense that we've talked about a few times, as I don't believe there was a drone present on the bottom floor. So this is just sheer luck. And Felopox swings. The guns from MIBR are so good. Every single LATAM team can easily beat you in the fragging department. Doki answers back on the Felopox. The team's at a 3v3. You'd also lost Nath too. That's the Hibana down for Na'Vi. Not particularly damning, but with some of the hard destruction done, the job of Hibana might not be as critical.
Yeah, they still have Secretly. He still has one charge left, but you know what? MIBR, they don't have the Maestro much longer. He's injured on the mattress. There is verticality below him. I think Doki sees him as he's trying to creep away. The backpack, the head gets found. Nice job from Doki. 3 versus 2. One player inside of construction and one player inside of office from MIBR. They're very far apart. They don't have a crossfire just yet.
I like the crossfire that can be had, but
Yes.
their one blind spot, if they don't move, is going to be Jim. So secretly, with the diffuser in hand, we'll prioritize that part of the map. There's not a lot of intel for Na'Vi. They've only got 15 seconds to work with. There's a Maestro cam up, and next to the bomb chassis, that plant will go down. Raps the last man standing, tossing out a nice C4. Hucked out, but it misses, secretly re-engages, and it's Doki to end a potential comeback. MIBR, so close, but close again. Doesn't particularly count. By a score of 7-5, Na'Vi survive a scare and take their map.
Basically, every single round went into the side who got the opening pick. It was Blur on this very final round that somehow, someway, almost walked all the way into the bomb site because there was no barbed wire or a Banshee from Lukid on that main stairs. And that goes to show where the value of gadgets they come into play, especially where you put them. And one of the biggest things you have to ensure in every single defensive setup is that your staircases are safe. Otherwise, you might just lose a player on site very quickly.
MIBR do not look particularly happy with that result. I don't blame them. I don't think I'd be really that enthused either. It certainly felt like you grabbed onto that momentum and had a golden chance to go to overtime. But unfortunately for Brazilian fans, MIBR letting so many rounds go at the start of the map came back to haunt them. That 4-2 for Na'Vi was a little bit too much to overcome, and then surrendering the first round of their defense was just the first of a couple nails in their coffin. That's map 1 though, Nick. We've still got 2 more to go. Chalet is up next, and MIBR should feel more comfortable knowing that it's their map.
Absolutely, and the thing is, Na'Vi hasn't played this map yet, so there isn't much studying to do for the side of MIBR. They'll have to play their own game and trust that they can do it, and I know it can be hard when you have a map, as we just had on Clubhouse. They found momentum for 3 rounds in a row. That was it. That's really all they had going for them. On Chalet, I really pray for their side that they can get at least a first round or something in the early game to try and get back some of that momentum that we talk about a lot. It really plays a big role in these games to really feel like you have a chance.
Na'Vi and MIBR proving to be just as competitive as we had hoped. But before we get into Chalet, let's sort of a quick break if that's okay with you, and then we'll be back with more Rainbow Six action. Well, that's map 1 in the books, and we're back now getting ready for map number 2 between Na'Vi and MIBR. There's something more than just a normal matchup on the line, because as we get closer to the end of the group stage here at the Six Invitational, we're going to start saying goodbye to certain teams. In this case, Na'Vi are fighting for their lives. They or Team 1 are almost certain to go home today. On the other stream, by the way, Team 1 is still in action against OXG, if you'd like to watch both of them at the same time. But after map 1, Na'Vi are doing everything they can to keep fate in their own hands by taking their map, Clubhouse 7-5.
Absolutely, and I think it kind of speaks volumes to what position Na'Vi are in. They know it's back against the wall. They know they might go home if they don't start finding a win somewhere. And we spoke about Doki dropping 15 kills to win rounds, and would you look at that, or maps rather, 15 and 7 plus 8 for him. Cost actually looking pretty good down the board. 75, 75, 67, 75, 58 for Na'Vi. When inside of MIBR, it sways a bit more. You got 83 up top, 42 at the bottom. So yeah, quite the differential maker there. But Na'Vi, they need to keep up this momentum if they want to continue playing like this, because in the last 2 days, it hasn't looked like Na'Vi has been on top. Now we're starting to see a glimpse of it, at least.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Na'Vi had a rough first set of maps, and then after that, they show more signs of life. Against a team like MIBR, if you do not want to go home, MIBR and Team 1 are the two teams that Na'Vi has to show up well against. And so far, so good against MIBR. But I can also turn around and say on the flip side, that Na'Vi going 7-5 all 12 rounds against a team who were not playing on their map is not exactly a confidence booster. Yes, Doki showed up. Yes, he carried a lot of those rounds. But on Chalet, you're going to need more of a team effort. It's not your map. You haven't played it once at the Six Invitational so far. MIBR only played it one time, by the way. Yeah. And they lost it to Damwon Kia by a score of 6-8. So it's not exactly like MIBR are coming in as world beaters on Chalet at this event. Na'Vi almost certainly studied some footage and know exactly what to do. But to compare Na'Vi to Damwon Kia, I think does a great disservice to the Korean team, who right now are the only team in this entire tournament who are guaranteed to make it out of their group. That said, Nick, an immediate, intriguing ban on our screen. MIBR does not want to deal with Lion. We are underway with map number 2, MIBR's pick of Chalet. MIBR starting on defense, Na'Vi on attack, and there is no yellow meta to be found here.
We're really taking these yellow operators off the wall. IQ, of course, still available. Blur did play that for a single round, I believe. If I was on this game or in this game, I wouldn't want to play against Lion either. And crazy enough, we're also seeing Na'Vi go with the Jaeger ban. So last map of Clubhouse, we saw Wamai. Now it's the Jaeger.
Did they just come together and say, no yellow operators at all?
I mean, we'll find, is there anyone
Kaid? Another yellow operator. Okay. What the hell is going on? Yep. They hate the color yellow. I understand it. And what color is Na'Vi's logo? Oh my God.
No.
Oh my God.
He doomed himself now, Parker.
Na'Vi's logo is yellow. The bands are yellow. Oh my.
I mean, this bodes well for MIBR, right? That means we go third map like this is it. We don't even gotta play out this map. We know the outcome already. MIBR takes it. We go on to the third map of Oregon. But no, seriously, this is Na'Vi's 7th map that we will have played at the Six Invitationals. And little fun fact, did you know there are only, and I say only, there are only 7 maps in the map pool in competitive play in Rainbow Six Siege. That means that as we're entering Chalet, this will have been the last map for Na'Vi that they have yet to play. So they're the most flexible team by imagination at this event in terms of how many maps they've played, but they are not the most flexible team in how many maps they've won when they've played them. They had a 2-0 loss against OXG. It was a 2-7-7-1. So, sorry. 2-7-1-7. It was Bank and Coastline. I got the numbers mixed up. And they had a 2-1 loss against Team 1. So they did manage to win a single map. That's the only map they've won besides the map we just saw on Clubhouse. That was a 7-4 Oregon in Na'Vi's favor into a 3-7 loss Cafe, 4-7 loss Villa to follow it up. So they would be very happy with another win. But before we get there, we gotta do a quick rehost and make sure that all the players are comfy in the server and got the right settings and operators and skins and all those things, because we all know sometimes players mess up. It happens.
It happens. Players can mess up. The server might have an issue. We don't know exactly what went wrong. And
I have no idea.
It's foolish of us to speculate, right? Let's talk about the greater picture right now, because Na'Vi, while wanting to win this from a group's perspective, there is the looming threat of elimination. No matter what happens, they're not going home today, but tomorrow is the last day of groups. On Sunday, either Na'Vi or Team 1 may be taking a flight home. For Na'Vi, it's a bit of a short flight, much longer for Team 1. We're going to spoil what happened in Map 1 on the other series, so close your ears for the next few seconds. Team 1, after being down, what was it, 6-1 or 6-2 for Oxygen, Team 1 have secured Map 1 on Coastline by a score of 8-7. So, the way that we look at what happens in these groups is that if Na'Vi wins and Team 1 loses, Team 1 is out. That's it. There are not enough points for them to come back. They cannot advance from the group. If Na'Vi wins 2-1, and that means that Team 1 must lose without winning a map. That is now gone, by the way, because Team 1 are not going to go out 0-2. So Na'Vi must win. If they do not win, even if they lose 1-2, there is a high likelihood that Na'Vi will end up going home. And this is something that Na'Vi is going to be playing with in the back of their head. It's foolish to suggest that they don't come in today understanding how high the stakes are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you have coaching staff and analysts and 5 pro players and everything else.
6 consoles.
Yeah, 6 consoles, 4 satellites. Yeah, cat cam, dog cam, all the cams. You know what the stakes are. You know exactly what match is the last match. You know which one is the first match. And you also know exactly which one might be your doom or your glory. I can say that with experience. I knew exactly when we were qualified for playoffs. I knew exactly when we were supposed to be qualified, but we didn't because we messed up. And now we gotta work harder. No doubt Na'Vi and MIBR, Team 1, OXG, all the teams playing today knows those exact same things. No surprise there.
No. So you fight for your life in the server, but then you also have to do it in your group. This is not a particular cakewalk of a group. There's 2 Brazilian teams in it, both Team 1 and MIBR. Rounding out the rest of the group, other than Na'Vi, are Damwon Kia and OXG. OXG have looked mighty strong so far. Damwon Kia has looked the strongest, of course. They have a +20 round differential, are currently 3-0, and are the only team that has clinched a spot as a first seed. No matter what happens with Oxygen or any of the other teams in the group, it is impossible for Damwon Kia to fall from first overall, which means they don't have to scrap through the lower bracket. They're going to be up top in the winner's bracket, and with every single best of 3 until the grand finals, Damwon Kia will have a second life, because even if they lose, they'll go down to that lower bracket. For the 2 bottom teams in this group, of which one of Team 1 or Na'Vi will be included in, you are in, once again, a do-or-die situation. You lose your best of 3 in the lower bracket, that's it. You go home. So,
I mean, for a lot of teams here, I think the initial goal, no matter who you are, Liquid, Damwon Kia, Na'Vi, etc., reigning world champions of NIP, I think the core, simple first goal is to make it out of groups. Then you can pat your back and say, you know what, we did it, boys. Anything from here is a bonus. Of course, there are a few outliers. I think NIP, they would love to defend their title in the grand final. I think a team like Damwon Kia are worthy of going top 4. It's even in my predictions. So in a non-biased way, I really hope they make it far. I think they're fun to watch, and also they play a really good game of Rainbow Six Siege. Na'Vi, MIBR, OXG, and Team 1, one of those teams are not gonna be here, but the other 3 will be joining us, and I hope we see more from them, even though they'll be in the lower bracket fighting for their lives each and every game. At the very least, they'll be used to it, right? Because no one has really stepped forward in this group besides Damwon Kia, so every other team, they know what it's like for every game to matter oh so much, and when you're in the lower bracket, that's exactly just how that will continue for you.
The big thing about today is that this is Team 1's last match. They are the team that has a bye tomorrow. So the reason why their match against OXG on the other stream is so crucial is that today is the last opportunity for the defending Mexico Major champions. I guess they're technically not defending anymore because they lost the crown of FaZe inside of Sweden. But the Mexico Major champions who went on that miracle run, today's it. That's it. You lose today, even if you win today, you cannot get any more points. Every other team here in Group D is in action tomorrow. OXG will play MIBR, and if MIBR wins here and OXG wins on the other stream, then that will likely be a fight for second place in the group. Neither of those teams right now in a position where they need to worry about going home. But what happens with Na'Vi? If Na'Vi wins today and then wins tomorrow against Damwon Kia, and MIBR loses today and loses to OXG tomorrow, then they're not going to go home, but they're going to finish 4th in the group and be in an even more precarious position. Team 1 absolutely have to close out today with a win if they want the best shot of making it out of the group in either the lower bracket or the higher bracket. I don't think the upper bracket's even possible for Team 1 at this point, by the way, but we'd have to dive into the numbers on that. Let's not speculate too much because numbers make my brain hurt. I don't know about you, and all of you at home probably very bored as I drone on about math equations. Round number 1 underway here on Chalet. Tech issues resolved. MIBR on defense, Na'Vi on attack.
Remember, this is MIBR's map pick, and they're looking quite confident because only one player is even remotely near to bomb site, that is false. And that means that Na'Vi will have to fight off 4 roaming defenders. It'll be the Melusi, it'll be the Mossy, the Lesion, the Vigil. Very much aggressive roam-based operators, and this is kind of where Na'Vi struggled on Clubhouse, right? The roam clear on the basement attacks weren't the quickest. MIBR, they understand the map, they understand the clock ticking down favors them, and Philippox gets the opening gunfight, but not the kill. But Doki, now half health left, is going to have a harder time throughout this round. He'll have to use the nades well, but Philippox and Redot finds 1 each. That is a good start for MIBR. Confidence speaks everything.
Defenders knocking out both the Thermite and the Maverick. That's the double hard breacher combo on a bomb site like Bar and Gaming. Maybe not as crucial as some of the other sites on this map, but you never want to be forfeiting those hard breachers right off the hop. Doki follows. He's in the grave as well, 6 feet under, which is roughly twice as tall as Doki is.
Oh, man.
And so is the rest of the team. It's a flawless round to start off Chalet. The delay clearly working for MIBR somehow, and they're making up for lost time.
Yep, that is the aggressive early round roam. It was a bar defense, but we didn't see a single second of action anywhere near that area. It was all done on the Solar Trophy Kitchen-ish area of the map, which is literally across from the bomb site. So if you're Na'Vi and you figure out, which they probably didn't know until they ended up dying to the roamers of MIBR, if you know the site is weak, you can make the call to, of course, rotate over, play it quickly, and just run over Falls, who's the only person on site with the smoke. But it also takes a lot of good drone work to come to that conclusion, and it can be very difficult to drone when the enemy team is playing, you know, the Mute, the Mossy, the Vigil, etc., because you're going to be limited on where your drones can go, and you can't always trust the information that you're gaining, because Vigil, for example, as an operator, will just blur out your drone and be like, oh, there's a Vigil on the map. Where? We don't really know, but we can maybe guess where he is. It does have quite a big radius. It goes through floors, up and down. So that just means a guessing game is the best you can do, and Reduct, he shows that. 3 kills on his side on that very first round.
That was a full court press, as we like to call it, over in North America. I guess you're in North America now too.
I mean, right now I'm in Sweden, but I have been in North America, and I will be going back to North America after this.
I'm aware of where you are at the present moment. I am standing right next to you.
Just making sure that you didn't think that you were in America, Parker. You never know. I'm just making sure that
I'm not even American.
Healthy.
So
I mean, you're half American. You're Canadian. It's quarter. Okay, he's okay with quarter.
I am not okay with quarter.
You're Canadian, Parker.
A grave insult to Canadians to suggest that we are in some way, shape, or form American. Okay.
I didn't hear that. You're lovely.
We will launch an army of moose at you, and you will have to fend against it.
And maple syrup.
And tons of maple syrup.
Yep. You guys have quite the reserve here.
You know, as a diabetic now, maple syrup is a biological weapon when used against me. So
I'll take note of that.
I suppose an act of war.
If you piss me off, Parker, I have a weapon that I can use at my disposal readily in most grocery stores. But right now, we're inside of office, not the grocery store. Redot gets stunned out from Na'Vi. It's Nath with that gun in hand, but Doki, he's the one that gets the pick. He earlier on previous round took a lot of damage, but this round he's the one to deal it instead.
Doki showing up is a major win condition for Na'Vi, if not the biggest win condition for Na'Vi, because when Doki does not frag, Na'Vi does not win. It doesn't need to be that much deeper. You know, when you say something and people say, it's not that deep. It's really not that deep. If Doki does not show up, that's it. Na'Vi oftentimes does simply not have that fragging potential to win. So an early pick from Doki to keep himself in it. He's going to have to get close to tying that 15-kill performance that he had on Clubhouse. Well, that first pick goes in favor of Na'Vi. They are not particularly keen to do much more than that. They get the kill, they immediately settle back down, go back to Discovery. Pick up some of the soft destruction on the top floor before then turning their sights to the main floor and eventually the basement, which is where the bomb site is.
Yeah, they still got some time ahead of them. 1 minute and 10 seconds on the clock. And now, Na'Vi bringing out the Maverick is going to favor them because, well, it's a basement attack. There's going to be jammers in your way and also the Kite Claw. So, Torching open a circle hole. Nate goes out, almost gets the drone of Doki, but no, it'll instead be Falls who finds it instead. And now Na'Vi opening up the wall in Trench. That's going to help them as they're going to gain a nice angle into side, but they want to open up the second wall as well, and there's currently a jammer on it.
That's Trench Wall, and now this Wine Wall will also get opened on up. Secretly is waiting for it. He's got that exothermic charge left. I'm not exactly sure where the Electroclaw went that was in hand of Falls. He tried to trick it. I think it was on that Trench Wall, but it was maybe a bit too slow. Not entirely certain. But with the Maverick using his torch to great effect, Na'Vi have now opened up both walls, and they can waltz on in. One player in Connector trying to stop them will be Falls, and Doki from above has the attention of a player, but Ray Duct wins the duel before getting away with a single HP, secretly getting the diffuser down, but his team is falling all around him, and Nath will be the one to try to save it. He drops right down, spraying on in. Nitro Cell takes out Secretly, and there's nothing Nath can do. Kills for him? No. Kills for MIBR? Yes. And the round will go to the Brazilians. They're up 2-0.
Oh, that's a nice one from MIBR. I will say, that Doki reduct fight inside a first floor of Fireplace and Bar, that was extremely important. Had Doki won, that means that MIBR have to fear the primary stairs and Fireplace going to side. Reduct had a slither of health, barely won it, but he did. And that really plays into MIBR's favor as they have one more man on the board, but also they got the map control. They could then just take all the remaining guns on the bomb site and only face in one direction. C4 came out, took down the planter of Na'Vi, and then we saw what happened. It was Blur who dropped the hatch, I believe, and then eventually got one kill, then got shot down, and now we'll be heading to Master Bedroom Office, which is kind of where the last round started, where the opening pick was found. That was Na'Vi who got it, but didn't get the round. This is also a 6 pick on to cancel from Falls. That's going to help secure some of those long angles from outside the building. That big window indeed, and the door to follow it up. This makes really good sense. It basically nullifies or makes it less valuable to go in that big window unless you want to use multiple soft breach explosions to kill both castle barricades to then gain back the angle that you normally otherwise would have.
I want to talk about that site selection, by the way, by MIBR for just a second here. Teams often loathe to go downstairs to Garage because of how hard it is to defend, especially if that first portion of the Garage gets opened up. Usually, teams will open that up, smoke it off, watch Connector, and they have relative impunity to walk in and get the diffuser down.
Yep. I mean,
Na'Vi didn't want that. They wanted to go through Trophy. They wanted to go through the back. They entered through Trophy. They go down to Snowmobile Garage or Bane Garage. They ignore Snowmobile Garage. They get the Wine Wall open. They get the Trench Wall open, which is a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
They get swung on, and I don't think Na'Vi was in position to find the MIBR players who did end up swinging.
It's a very good point, and it basically is Na'Vi choosing to go for roam clear and going for map control, going for the early frag in their favor. That kind of speaks to the fact that they don't have time to also walk outside the map, run all the way across, open up the snowmobile wall, then go back into a trench. You can only pick and choose your options. Imagine there's those like 3 rings and they all overlap. Well, you can pick 2, but you can't have all 3. That's what happened. You cannot have map control and both sides breached at the same time. Same story on Clubhouse that we just saw. You cannot get both garage construction and the main breach. It's either main breach and garage or main breach and construction. That's just how the cookie crumbles.
So, this is 1 minute into round number 3. And a defense upstairs in the bedroom portion of the map. I'm not sure if we will see a kitchen defense, but these teams are crafty enough and were crafty enough that Na'Vi went to all 4 bomb sites on Clubhouse. Will they bring that same level of ingenuity to Chalet? I'm not entirely certain. We'll have to wait. MIBR like their site rotation an awful lot on Clubhouse. If you are creatures of habit, then just stick to the same 3 bomb sites, perfect and hone your craft, and don't worry about a potential pocket strat.
No, you're not wrong there, Parker, but neither is Lukit. He strikes through. That's Doki off the board again, and that's Doki every single round being a part of the first gunfight. Once went in his favor, but twice it did not. Blur also now half health. Of course, Lukit himself not looking too shabby. There is no Thunderbird just yet being brought out, but Blur says, you know what, a headshot will come right clean off. Reduct, same story for him, trading back and forth, and now we cannot get the ground because MIBR simply won't allow them to get it. Now Nave finding Philippox is going to be better off for them, but they need more than this. Now secretly will have to go on in, finds another kill for himself, but Plant, it's going to be difficult. There is 1c4 from Lukit, and a jump out ready, unlocked here. Saves, not on the balconies, he came back inside of Piano. We'll have to go through this Aruni gate.
He tries to get the diffuser down, but then falls off of it. Another attempt. Fall spraying on in above the head, but he gets picked apart, and both of them die in relatively quick order. All right, a bit of a puzzling end to that round, but I don't think Na'Vi cares that it was puzzling at all. You can scratch your heads, but do so with one round under your belt. No perfect site rotation for MIBR, despite the Brazilian team taking 2 of the first 3 rounds. They ultimately drop that bedroom defense, and Na'Vi picks it up to get on the board.
A win is a win, even if it was scrappy or puzzling. And yeah, secretly worth noting, he actually played the flashbangs last round on the Thermite. It wasn't the smokes. That is going to make life a little bit more difficult if you're on the attacking side, because you cannot cut off the lines of sight and limit the vision from the defenders. Although I will also argue that with the flashbang change, which in case you guys aren't aware, they changed the flashbangs and most flash mechanics, if not every flash mechanic of the game. So as long as you are within an 8-meter in-game radius of a flashbang, you will always get blinded. It doesn't matter if you're turning away, if you're staring right at it, you will get blinded. Although, be it with a reduced effect if you're not facing it about 50%, so it'll be a bit shorter, but you still can't see, so it really won't matter. Flashbangs are quite strong for the first time in Rainbow Six Siege, really, since that change was made. I believe it was about 9 months ago at this point, maybe even longer. My memory is not the greatest, and time has really flown by these last 2 years, in my opinion, Walker.
It honestly, it feels like we've been in like the same 3 months, just over and over again, but I want to talk about Na'Vi playing this map for just a second here.
Do it.
Since the Mexico Major, Na'Vi have played this map in Tier 1 competition only 2 times. They played it in the EU Finals in the lower bracket when G2 defeated them 3-7. And then they played it again on Playday number 3 all the way back in September 20th where they defeated Team Secret 7-5. The last time that they played it before that was August 18th. Against Furia, and Furia won 8-7. So since August 18th, this team has played Chalet 3 times. They've played it in international competition once, they've played it in domestic competition twice, and they don't have a particularly good record. 2 losses, one of which was close, and a narrow victory. MIBR seemingly far more comfortable here, and given the fact that Na'Vi's map pool has been somewhat exposed by this pick, you have to worry. But Na'Vi kept pace in round number 3. Round number 4 starts off with a bit of a dull roar for MIBR, and it will continue to go. The roar getting louder and louder and louder. Doki 1-4, he's gone. Nath will join him.
Yeah, not looking too good for Na'Vi. They're not finding the picks, and they're not really playing together the same way we saw them do on Clubhouse. They're very much spread thin, and it shows 5 versus 2. This only really happens if you're not trading out correctly, and that is the name of the game for Na'Vi. It's everybody fighting for themselves, not playing as a unit, except for the one round we just saw where they won on that top floor attack on Master Bedroom. Oh boy, Na'Vi, now you can't really do much. You gotta just kind of jump in, try and find a pick or 2. Because a 5 versus 2 is never really winnable unless it gets handed right to you, and I don't think MIBR has any way of doing that because they've all fallen back to side except for Philippox, who's roaming down below. They do not want to throw around this freebie of a round.
All 4 bomb sites now played by MIBR as well, so this is a this is a sign. It shows the flexibility of this map. Beautiful shot, 4 kills. Philippox looking for 1 more. The last player to elude him is Saves. He'll approach from the back. Philippox is looking at the stairs. Saves sees him, wins the first bit of the engagement. Low HP for Philippox. He's got 4 kills to his name, looking for a 5th, but the rest of the team will coalesce and try to pressure Saves, playing in this position. By the doorway, shooting away. They don't care if it's going to end up being an ace or not. He gets the down, but not the kill. No ace. And the round breaks in favor of MIBR flawlessly.
You know, we've actually not seen that many aces at this event. I think last invite, if I recall correctly, we saw quite a lot of them. I know Dan got the first one from Empire. I don't actually know for sure if we have seen a second one just yet, but that was definitely close to it. It was a 4K from Philippox, and then he actually survived, got injured, flawless round from MIBR, 3-1 scoreline, and now, unsurprisingly, we will have a tactical timeout from Na'Vi once this replay goes through. Honestly, not a bad time. You are down. You want to try and scramble some more rounds together, because a 1-3 scoreline is not how you want to go further into this. You want to go, 3-2, 3-3 ideally, and you have a chance here to go 5-1 in favor of MIBR if Na'Vi doesn't start finding ground on the map.
Well, this timeout is well timed, I would say. Na'Vi have had a miserable effort on 3 of these 4 rounds. Yes, they did take the 3rd round, and we need to applaud that. But outside of that, MIBR have 2 flawless rounds, which is staggering so early on. Na'Vi's entry, not good. They're not working together. They're not droning each other in. Dokian a lot of times seems to be walking in with limited intel, and it's MIBR preparing for where Na'Vi will enter and then swiftly shutting them down. It doesn't hurt that MIBR have made some absolutely inhuman shots thus far, which, well, strategy-wise, Chalet is not a map where just strategy can carry you. It is a bruiser-style map. You will need to engage in gunfights. That will get very sloppy, very messy, and a lot of it's going to come in exceptionally close quarters. A lot of short hallways, a lot of door frame play. So it's not like a map like Clubhouse where you have those longer sightlines, or a map like Villa where you might be able to engage somebody from rooms over. You're going to be up close and personal here. I honestly think that goes to the strength of these Latin America teams. MIBR is not much different from the rest of their fellow countrymen, and when they are on one and hitting their shots, which they started to do at the tail end of Clubhouse and have now carried forward over to Chalet, they're a very tough beast to tame.
That they are. Actually curious if Na'Vi during that tactical timeout mentioned the word Montagne or Munti. It's an operator that Na'Vi kind of use as a fail-safe operator when nothing else works. It's Nath himself who plays it. Didn't 6-pick it this round, it was secretly 6-pick from Thermite to Thermite, but I am curious if maybe Na'Vi will get desperate enough to bring it out one round or another. I know they played it on Villa previously, and they've also played it on Oregon in the past as well. So something they have up in their strat pocket, might not want to bring out yet. The thing is, if you bring the Monty Parker, you're going to be down a gun. It might be as you said, 5 formidable, aggressive players, usually false plays on side, and then 4 players are roaming. Monty can be nice for that, and so can Jackal. Neither operator picked yet. Na'Vi, they need to start finding out how to get their kills, how to play more together. The droning here is great. They got most guns in the same area. It was Doki and Blur playing together on this garage entry.
Speaking of, that could have been the bomb site. It unlocked with the beginning of this round, but instead, MIBR will go for this 4-site rotation, going back up top to the bomb site number 1, being Bar and Gaming. They've got Philippox holding down the fort down below, killing as much time as he can, and hopefully for MIBR, killing 1 or 2 players
again
from Na'Vi. Yeah, again is the key word, because Philippox was denied the ace in the previous round, but still a quad kill is more than good enough. As you said, Na'Vi playing off each other. They opened up garage. 2 reinforcements were used to try and keep the defense a bit safer. Didn't really work out. I mean, I suppose it did because Philippox got away safely, but other than that, not too much. Cutting away at the wall. Doki, along with the Maverick right next to him. Good coordination. Blur doesn't get anything for that kill, but he's instrumental in it every other way. Doki nets it. That's kill number 2 for him. Lead-off pick for Na'Vi, and there's half of the round to go.
You see, the second they got that pick, every member from MIBR, they came back to side rather quickly because it was just false on side. Na'Vi clearly didn't know this, otherwise they could have rushed in through and taken advantage of this small opening that has now since been closed. They played together, which got them the opening pick. It's what we need to see more of from Na'Vi. And now they're rotating to that side window, jumping in, not respecting the rotate. Raps finds 2 picks and shuts them down. It's just Blur, saves, and secretly left. But now, as I say that, 2 men stay left and standing. Now, in a 1v3, it saves. Once again, has to save the round for his team. He has diffuser, has a bit of side control. But MIBR, they're playing passive, biding their time. They know he has to plant 7 seconds on that fuse. It's a very long one indeed. And they can hear that he got off it. Philippox closes it out, just like he also opened it in the past. MIBR on Chalet looking a lot stronger than that of Clubhouse.
Well, the timeout for Na'Vi not immediately doing much, but at least it was a closer round than a flawless, that's for certain. Only a couple picks, and it started off so well. Using drones and using coordination to a level that we hadn't seen from Na'Vi really on this map. They waltz inside of Snowmobile Garage, push off Felipox, gain control, pick off the smoke, playing inside a back bar. With that back bar player taken out, you now need somebody from the defense to assume that position again because it is too powerful a spot to not hold. But the problem is that because Na'Vi has a numbers advantage, they can stick somebody there, and the bottom part of the reinforcement leading from lobby is forever cut open. So you have to rearrange your defense as MIBR. If you lose control of the top floor, if you lose control of library, there's really nowhere for you to go. But Na'Vi weren't particularly focused on that. It was a linear take through the lobby. They got cut down to size. MIBR knew it was coming, and they didn't really sweat all that much, leaving the players on the periphery to then walk into the bomb site with saves in a 1v3, ultimately having to get the diffuser down and being wholly unsuccessful.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame of a round for Na'Vi because they got the most important player of the board, Falls, the only person holding down the bomb site. Then they don't rush immediately. They actually slow down, they rotate over, they jump in the window, but they give MIBR 20 or 30 or so seconds to rotate around it, and they did so beautifully. They were so prepared for the site execute, and they got so many kills off it. So Na'Vi, hesitation, kind of your worst enemy right now. You need to play with 100% confidence in yourself and your plan. It's better to follow a bad plan than to have no plan at all. That's always what we used to say back in Penta G2.
Absolutely. Final defense now for MIBR. They've got 2 flawless rounds to their name. Na'Vi, 2 opening picks, 3 in favor of MIBR. And that grenade goes off, and it picks away with the Electric Claw. Falls does not have any more denial, so he retreats deeper into Wine. The front portion of the bottom floor bomb site is now open, so that breach will remain. No player from MIBR can hold any space by Snowmobile unless they engage in a direct gunfight. And saves, by the way, does not drone out, nor does the rest of his team, the top of West Main. And what happens? Felipox goes down, C saves, and that's one of the earliest and easiest free picks we've seen in this series.
Absolutely, like the easiest kill right now. And we spoke earlier about those like 3 overlapping rings. Well, now Na'Vi might have stretched themselves too thin, right? Because they had the support team going to the Snowmobile side to get the breach open. Meanwhile, Saves walks in with little to no support. Now Doki does the same, but he actually conquers and he gets the gun to Raps, but he's oh so low on health that did this actually even matter? It is the smoke off the board that is going to bring them a ton of value as this round goes on. But I'm not sure if that's all they can do. Nope, Reduct says no to Naif, and now it'll all be down to the last 3 remaining player of Na'Vi to make a miracle of this round.
MIBR is playing such a fluid style of defense right now, and they're boxing Na'Vi out. Na'Vi have to fight for every single room, every single hallway, in order to gain even a sliver of map control. And when you've got a team like MIBR who are feeling good, playing on a strong map, and Na'Vi have struggled unless Doki can get on the scoreboard and are not playing on a map they play all that often, then this is the result that you get. A 5-1 half with 50 seconds left looks all but certain. From upstairs in Chimney, it's Lukid, and secretly is the last chance for Na'Vi. Will not be long for this Earth. That 5-1 half that we talked about, we didn't even need to manifest it. It just happens, and that's the first half in the books. MIBR putting on a clinic against Na'Vi.
You said it so well, Parker. You did. You said MIBR is making Na'Vi fight for every single room, every inch, every meter, every kind of measurement you can use, really. And they're shutting down the entry points beautifully. They're finding kills after kills after kills, and they're also winning almost every single 1 versus 1 on the board. MIBR, Latam in general, they play a little bit more isolated because they're so formidable in their gunplay. And when you're from Europe, when you're Na'Vi, that is when you're going to have a bad time if you try and match that 1-to-1. If you are Na'Vi, you gotta match it 2-to-1. For every 1 gun they have in your direction, you gotta point 2 right back. Otherwise, the odds are not in your favor. That is exactly what somebody like Felipox has shown so far. 9 kills to his names, 8 to Reduct, then you got 2 on Falls, 4 on Raps, and 4 on Lukid. if you look at the side of Na'Vi, you got 1-5, 3-6, 2-6, 3-5, 1-5. No one really showing up. We spoke about Doki. When he shows up, Na'Vi might win. That's their best chance. It's their best weapon. He is tied top kills with Nath, going 3-6.
Yeah, not a great scoreline at all for any player on Na'Vi. In fact, 2 players sitting at 1-5 is downright miserable. And that's what happens when you surrender 2 flawless rounds to your opponent. Na'Vi wasn't even really fighting back on either of those rounds. And even if they weren't flawless, I firmly believe Na'Vi wasn't fighting back on a lot of those rounds. In the one we just witnessed, on the garage take from Na'Vi, they had basically nothing going. It seems odd that Na'Vi come into this event and we don't really know the expectations for them because they did have a bit of a slide after Mexico. Their performance globally was not particularly good. They go out in groups in Mexico, and then they come into the EUL, and you said what, they finished 8th?
8th, yeah. In stage 3.
Downright dreadful.
Yeah.
Downright dreadful. And there was a scare that they could potentially even end up in relegations for how they were playing. So they come in, what are their expectations? Well, maybe make it out of groups.
Well, Nave said he wants to make top 4. That'd be great for them, he said.
Yeah, he said top four is a great result.
Yeah.
Top 4 is a great result.
That's a really great result.
By the way, top 4 is a great result. For Na'Vi, top 4 doesn't look attainable. Top 4 in their group doesn't even look attainable right now if Chalet continues to go the way we are seeing. There's a grenade cost in now as we look in round 7. We're underway, 1 minute off the clock. Saves has been downed, the smoke will be on a shred of HP, and he's still got those toxic canisters, all 3 in his pocket. He does not have a passive gadget. That's an active gadget, so losing the smoke means that one of your operators is as good as gone. But this fluid style of defense that we saw from MIBR, well, maybe Na'Vi will inherit that role. They get the lead-off pick here halfway through, and will add to it now as both Lukid and Reduct have been just fed to the machine. But wait a moment, hold on. Velopox was in the middle of the bomb site. He picks up a kill, as does Falls. Doki with 2 of his own. They're starting to get on the board, and there's a grenade as he catches Falls inside of Connector. And Na'Vi have their second round. It came in a bit of a hurry, all in the span of about 20 seconds of action on their very first defense.
Yeah, we spoke about Na'Vi hesitating a little bit on those side executes. MIBR just showed exactly how you should have done it if Na'Vi was in that same position. Of course, didn't really work in their favor, but it was such a nice try. They got the opening pick. They had all 3 players, 1 from the breach, 1 from blue, 1 from trench, capitalizing on every single angle on the bomb side. Na'Vi came out on top. That early activation of the roam was amazing for them. It was Blur himself who got the opening pick. They had 2 roamers and 3 guys inside from the side of Na'Vi, and I think that's exactly how you need to play this map, just like MIBR. You gotta get out there, you gotta spread thin, but that's also where you gotta be worried. If there is an enemy from MIBR, it can be dangerous to fight him alone, unless of course they don't know your whereabouts. So droning in intel and information gathering is extremely important. It's also why we'd like to see sometimes the Jackal being brought on attack, an operator that we've yet to see in this matchup so far. But then again, as long as you use your drones accordingly, you shouldn't need the Jackal to help you. Dokebi, also an operator that we sometimes see on maps like Chalet, where it's a very big, wide open map where people play information operators such as Doki on the Maestro. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Kitchen defense. Every bomb site has popped up at least 1 time thanks to MIBR. This will be the 2nd time that we see a kitchen defense.
Tell me last time who won the kitchen defense.
It was MIBR flawlessly, Nick.
It was. So, can Na'Vi do the same thing? I mean, flawless is a big, tall ask, but you need to start getting momentum because if MIBR wins this round, or any round for that matter, they'll go on map point. It is a best of 3. We're not playing best of 1s. If MIBR wins Chalet, we go to Oregon because the previous map of Clubhouse went into the side of Na'Vi. So, excuse me, map point.
Well, we'd like to remind you, as you are now watching MIBR absolutely punish Na'Vi, that there is another Brazilian team in action. You can actually watch it on the 2nd Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Rainbow6Bravo. These are both A and B streams, 1A, 1B. Go on over there because there are huge implications of OXG versus Team 1. Na'Vi and Team 1 are the 2 bottom teams, and there are a number of scenarios at which one of them can go home today. This will also be Team 1's last match. So if you are a fan of the Brazilian squad, the team that won in Mexico, you got to go over to the other channel to watch it. But we are looking at a very defender-sided Chalet. Doki gets lead-off kill, then immediately dies. Secretly is dropped as well. That wasn't Doki who got the lead-off kill. It was Blur.
It was Blur.
It's Blur. My apologies. Sometimes it happens.
Sometimes it happens. And
right on top of each other on the right side of our screen. Secretly had been downed. He gets halfway to death and gets picked right back up.
Sitting still. Waiting. Looming, glooming, watching.
You would not know that there's any urgency in this lobby right now. There's 1 minute to go and nobody is moving a muscle. And at some point, you gotta go, lads. That's just the way it is. Whether you're MIBR, whether you're Na'Vi, you have to start.
It's a standoff or a layoff. I'm not sure. He's laying down his
I don't know. Both Saves and Secretly are immobile. They are upright. Falls looking at the top floor. Rayduct walks in. Saves is the wrong direction. Again, Na'Vi just not looking as to where MIBR are coming from. This seems to be Na'Vi's undoing across all of the games that they've played, all the way back to day one. So MIBR now, they stretch their lead that they have in the game. Potentially, all they need is a single round to go to map point. 15 seconds to go, and again, that sense of urgency is seriously missing in this matchup. You gotta go if you're an attacker. The smoke has been sequestered, but it's a big play from both Blur and Nath. That's Diffuser down, and MIBR have just dawdled. They've wasted way too much damn time, and they had no idea what to do through the mid-round. MIBR just completely lose the plot. Na'Vi don't really need to do anything, because if the attackers don't come to you, the clock runs out and the defenders win. So a relatively simple defense from Na'Vi. Their setup goes, and then they just sit and they wait and they let MIBR marinate. And Na'Vi picks up their second round in a row. They're still trailing, but the game is closing. MIBR is up 5-3.
A little bit different from MIBR, right? Especially they are a Latin team. They're known for their aggressive, fast playstyle, and so far, both on Clubhouse and Chalet, they have had aggression. They have wanted to challenge map control, and they've wanted to take the kills when they know where the enemies of Na'Vi are. But MIBR Falls specifically knew the ish whereabouts of Saves. They were having that standoff, waiting for another. There was no sense of urgency from either team, and that's where Na'Vi are laughing because they're on the defense. But MIBR, if you know where somebody is, you just gotta go in there, use a flashbang, use a drone. Yes, Sophia came for the backup, but it took so much time that eventually led to your demise. You got the top floor in control, but you didn't have enough time to utilize it to make holes in the floor, use verticality, and limit the positions of Na'Vi, and therefore you walk down a staircase with so many angles to worry about, with no drones and no time to do anything besides just guessing and hoping that somehow it'll work out.
All right, we have a score update for you on the other game, by the way, so plug your ears. The clock currently says 2:52. Give us about 10 seconds to talk about it. Okay, perfect. Right now, OXG is up 3-2 on map number 2. Team 1 is up 1-0 in map score. We have 3 more seconds. Nick, you don't get to say anything. All right, perfect. Right back in.
I can say wow. Wow.
That's all you're allowed to say. Wow.
It's the only right response, I feel like.
We can say this with full confidence and not leaking what's going on, is that it is a very close map.
Yes.
It is a very close second map right now. You turn on both streams at the same time.
Yeah, if they have 2 monitors, so just split it onto 1 monitor, get like a little bit smaller screens. And of course, you can also, if you really want to, there's like a challenge. You can have both, I guess 4 commentators across, you know, the 2 streams, get 1 in each ear. Now, so left brain, they get 1 match, right brain gets the other match, and that's just like madness in your head.
I'm just waiting for somebody to be like, actually, for mobile users, this is classist because I can't afford 2 phones, and there's no way for me to watch 2 streams at once. Therefore, you're ignorant.
I'm very sorry.
That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for somebody to say that to me. And I feel like now that I've said it, people are going to slide into my DMs or mention me on Twitter and basically say that obviously it's a joke. And it'll be impossible to tell if you're kidding or not. And frankly, I don't care if you're kidding, you're being serious. Just stop, care about something that matters. Like this matchup in particular. And Luke Kid's nade matters quite an awful lot to Na'Vi. MIBR amassed quite a lead in that first half. 5 rounds in the first 6. That was an impressive scoreline. But Na'Vi have tightened it up, losing Blur early obviously does not help Navi's chances. They're going to be down a man for a minute and a half.
Yeah, and something to note, this is the first opening kill that MIBR has gotten since the side swap. It's the first time on the attacking side they've been in the lead. They will now need to convert this from an early round success to a mid and late round success. Otherwise, it'll all be for nothing. Sure, you can get the opening pick and you can have a great beginning, but the end is all that matters because the end defines the round and who gets it. Now we see Philippox about to have a gunfight, possibly. Doki swings first, gets the kill, and I thought for a second Doki had fallen off, but he's stuck around. The confidence is still there, and he's now 6 and 7 on the scoreboard. He needs his teammates to also step it up because there are many more rounds to come. MIBR seemingly crouch walking around, no urgency in sight, but Doki, he wants every fight.
MIBR's urgency was that thorn in their side in the previous round. Now it sure seems like it's repeating itself. They get that first pick, but they do really nothing with it. And then there's this stalemate. You wouldn't know it, but there's 15 seconds left in the round again. Why? Because MIBR are really struggling. They're walking right into the waiting arms of a pint-sized Scotsman who is crushing them at every single advance. The final 2 players from MIBR right now inside of the closet, and they will deny Doki an ace. He picks up 4 kills, and Na'Vi now are 1 round away from tying the game.
MIBR won 5 rounds of the first 6, and Doki took that personally because he right now is quite literally hunting down each member of MIBR. He went from top floor to first floor, back up to top floor, back down to first floor, and chasing in towards the attackers, even though they have a safe bomb site to hide on, to play inside of, and play that trading, refragging game. You see it here. Doki dropped the hatch, somehow made his way all the way back to side, even got the 4K. I think that was the last player of Lukid who actually ran away, fearing the wrath of Doki. Didn't want to give him the ace, just like Philippox didn't get one either. And I guess, in a way, that's fair. You see right now, bottom of your screen, round breakdown, while we got this technical pause from MIBR, that almost every single round has come down to kills, with a single one of those coming down to the time simply running out. There has been no plans, and to be quite honest, very few attempts of that even. And that just speaks to the volume of how MIBR and Na'Vi is playing on Chalet right now, and most of these rounds have really been decided in the first minute and a half when it comes down to how you're roaming around the map. Both teams doing a very similar thing at defense, and both teams failing to find success on their attacking side. MIBR has not gotten an attacking win yet, and Na'Vi on a 3-round win streak.
It's both timeouts flushed out as well. Na'Vi using their timeout back in round number 4. Now MIBR using it in number 9, as you alluded to. So what do Na'Vi immediately change up?
Capcan.
There you go. Na'Vi don't really need to change that much up, but it's funny that a Capcan comes out when the main criticism of MIBR over the previous 2 rounds is how slow they are. So Na'Vi are going to bring another operator to slow you down. Now that's a 6th pick off of a Malusi. And rather, sorry, that was a 6th pick off of a Jaeger. So you're going to sacrifice some of your ability to deal with those projectiles and throwables, but if you don't really sweat that, then you just want to make it so that MIBR cannot take up map control as quickly as they usually want. And like I said, given those last 2 rounds, MIBR have been dreadfully slow at doing that. Even when they had an advantage, they didn't know what to do with it.
And now imagine that during that tactical timeout that MIBR was talking about just that. Their coach saw it. Guys, we're playing too slow, losing precious time. We gotta speed it up. Well, if you're speeding up and there's a Capcan on the board, you're not gonna check the doorway. You're gonna go through it, Parker, and then you're gonna take a ton of damage. Blur has put down 4 traps so far, mostly around the basement area, but now up on the very top floor near that, what we call it, bathroom. There's not a bathroom in there really, it's more like a big hot tub room. He puts the final...
There's nowhere to do the business.
No, the business is the top, that's it.
There's nowhere to do the business, but if you want a bath, you can do it up there.
Serious bath.
While we talk about MIBR's woeful entry, we also have to praise the way that Na'Vi has roamed, because MIBR as a team are struggling to drone in, but it's easy to drone a map where a team is not particularly crafty on on their roam. MIBR would not be struggling if Na'Vi were staying static, just as Na'Vi wouldn't have been struggling so much if MIBR were doing the same. The praise that we gave to MIBR when they were on defense was how fluid they were. They were constantly in motion, and Na'Vi were not rising to that level of roam with their drone work, with their coordination. You could tell they wanted to, but they were incapable of doing it. MIBR is now receiving that same treatment. Blur and Doki are roaming so well together and are playing off of the information that they are getting, and MIBR need to raise their level. They need to raise their game and rise to the occasion in order to match that head on.
I really like this mirror window inside of dining. It basically looks over all of Fireplace on this first floor. It gives good information, but Raps with the buck might just be the perfect operator to pick it apart. Only chooses to open up the wall with his gun. Doesn't want to challenge just yet, and I think, honestly, the way Navi's been playing has struck some fear into the side of MIBR because they're having the opportunities to have gunfights, and they're choosing not to take them. Thanks to Doki, thanks to Blur, we have now seen a scared, arguably scared MIBR.
This is the same lineup of X-Kairos on the garage wall that we witnessed back in round number 7, the very first execute that MIBR pulled off on their attack. And it's partially done so you can watch from safety outside the rotate where the default mirror goes. The nade falls down to Secretly's lap, but it doesn't do enough to blow him up. And now Doki will instead swing. This is something that you can't be really taking chances with. Rebuff the attackers when they walk in, but don't waste too much time, and Doki gets too cute. And he's gunned down by Raps. Lead-off pick. 30 seconds to go for MIBR, and Na'Vi find the scoreboard, answering back, taking out Fellapox, the top performer from MIBR. And Blur is still above. He'll head through lobby. Lucan is down below. Rayduct will soon join. But there's no information here, and Blur capitalizes off of Rayduct. Now through the wall, Nath tries to soften one up. He'll get swung on, still playing here. Immediately flicks over, and that's Raps down for the count. Falls in pursuit through Connector, but with that bearing 9 in hand, cannot hit anything. Na'Vi are hitting everything, the polar opposite, and we've got a tie game on Chalet.
For the first time since the very beginning, Na'Vi are now not in the lead, but tied up with MIBR. Saves with a phenomenal job shot with the shotgun, takes out the second last member of MIBR, and they safely get that round. Blur doing such a good job on the roam. He even backed the score count to 4-4 after Doki had fallen as the first member early in the round. And then we also saw Nath. He stuck around inside of dining on that mirror window we spoke of earlier, and actually also found a kill himself. The roam game, the map adaptation, flexibility, getting active on the map. I love to use that word, active, active, active. That is how you need to play Rainbow Six Siege at the highest level. You cannot win rounds by doing nothing. And I know some people will look at last round and take the example of Doki. He swung away from the mirror window, then went through Connector, and he got punished. And sometimes it doesn't work. But the reasoning why Na'Vi are clawing their way back is because it worked the previous rounds, and you gotta take risks sometimes. Otherwise, where's the fun?
But is that the purpose, Nick? Is fun?
It is.
The purpose.
You need to have fun. Honestly, yes and no, right? Of course, it's a highly competitive environment. It's about winning. But I do think having fun plays a massive part in your mentality and your team chemistry as you're playing these rounds. If you cannot have fun and you cannot be creative, I believe that you're going to shut down a little bit at least, and that's going to impact how you perform. Gotta enjoy your time with your teammates in the server and together.
Well,
I mean, I'll cut you off right now. If you and I aren't having fun together,
all right,
I would say our cast would also be worse. I would like to say on cast, I am enjoying my time together, Park, and I feel like I'm having fun most of the time.
I definitely didn't pay him to say that, by the way.
I mean, kind of.
I did not say, you know what, Nick, you know what I think would go a long way? I think if you openly spoke about how much fun we're having right now, I think that would really help people, and me in particular, and my ego. But no, I am enjoying it as well, and I think both of these teams are presently not enjoying this matchup. With how much is on the line for Na'Vi, knowing that not only do they need to perform well, but they also need Team 1 to not perform well. Na'Vi are playing under a ton of pressure, but they've risen to this occasion, as we talked about. MIBR needs to be the team to do that at the moment because they are in free fall, if I can use that term. They took a tactical timeout. It did not immediately pay off, and now they have lost most of Fellapox's HP. That's not an ideal start.
It's not, and he is the top gunner. He had a really good defensive side. Now when you attack, it's a little bit of a different story. Now, Sledge was Wait, Philipbox, walk into side, opening kill.
Hello?
Doki trades it back.
It's a trade ultimately. Now Doki swatted away by Raps. I don't think Na'Vi understood how close MIBR was to the bomb site. And MIBR's sluggishness suddenly disappearing. They've now been able to take control of the periphery and push into the bomb site. But Saves trades some of his HP away for a kill onto Raps, slowing things down. 3v3. Still so much time left. Lukin getting the diffuser down, he falls off. A kill from Rayduct onto Secretly. That's the remainder of Saves gone now too, and Blur finds himself in a 1v3, dancing around whatever protection he has, but there's too many angles for him to cover, and he's almost all out of bullets, 9 to his name. Swinging in a reload, not really possible. Rayduct finishes the deal, and that's match point for MIBR.
Now the pressure is really on for Na'Vi. That looked like a good round, not much was happening. Almost afraid of that stalemate situation for MIBR again, but then, all of a sudden, Philipbox with 10 health walks into side, opens up the round for MIBR, and yes, Doki was there, swung right back, got the trade, but that's not enough because MIBR, we all saw it, they came out on top.
They did, and that was my favorite round. I didn't even get to say it, Nick. That is my favorite round because no matter what happens, a team goes to match point. So it's MIBR who does it. They finally break the streak. After MIBR themselves put 3 rounds in a row together to close out the first half, Na'Vi then stitch 4 together on their own. That is something we've actually been seeing a fair bit of at this event. Almost every single series, there's one map where teams go on a tear, collect 3 or 4 rounds in a row, and then things shift back in the other direction. For MIBR, you're hoping that it continues to shift. If you are Na'Vi, you need to break that. You need to go to overtime, win rounds back and forth, and then settle it in OT.
I mean, we're almost seeing a similar story play out in the previous map where it was a 7-5. That time, MIBR was a team trying to claw it back. It was Na'Vi in the lead. Now we see MIBR in the lead. This time it's a 5-1 split with MIBR starting on the defense. Then we saw the side swap. Na'Vi won 4 rounds in a row. And then just now, just last round, MIBR won their 6th, putting them on match. It's debate because it's match point on the thing, but it's map point. It's confusing me.
If it was a best of 1, this would be match point.
But it's not a best of 1. And my brain can't handle it. I'm very sorry. Map point. There is a 3rd map. It is Oregon.
I mean, we could also just say that it's 3 matches make up a series. It's a best of 3. Each of those maps is a match in and of itself.
It's true.
And then they win the series.
Yes.
But we all have to agree on that. It needs a collective buy-in. Okay, comrades in the chat. So we'll see if that's even possible. We'll talk to the casters about it because map point is correct.
Yes.
But it's also match point, series point. That sounds like the same.
Doki.
What a kill by Doki to start this off and give his team the best chance of overtime possible. That's also the case surrendered. What a target for Doki to find.
That's the only heart breach from MIBR. Oh my god, Doki punches the floor, shoots the head, Lukin off the board, 5v3, and now it's time to calm down. Doki, you got the 2 kills, arguably the most important onto falls. There is no Hibana, there is no heart breach. You don't need to do any more damage. You have already done the hero play. Fall back, I beg.
You beg.
I beg.
Bias cast.
MIBR should beg as well because if he keeps going, he's gonna keep getting kills.
Well, this is a tall task for MIBR now. They've got some drones left, 7 still to their name, so that's actually a decent amount ultimately, though they have 7 available, but it actually looks like in terms of active drone work, there's fewer than that. That doesn't include the 2 players from MIBR who are dead. Their drones might still be up, but they're not able to be moved. Doki with 3 kills. He got a 4K before. There's another. He was denied the ace previously, and like you said, Nick, there have not been a lot of aces at this event. I actually don't know how many we've seen so far, but there won't be another, that's for certain. As Philipbox from above guns down Doki. I'll head now into trophy stairs, over just below Solarium, and Doki's was outside, by the way.
Oh my god, it's the team.
Nathan says last one's outside, by the way, and guess not. that's not correct. Philippox has 4 more picks to go. In this particular situation, is there a 1v4 possible, Nick? Or do you think you sit down and prepare yourself for OT and use that time?
I mean, if you're gonna go basement with a pistol in your hand, I would say use the time. You have already used a timeout, both teams have. You don't need to make the hero play now because it's so unlikely. There are so many things in the path that will stop you from succeeding in getting the 1v3. And all Navi has to do essentially is hide in a corner. The gas comes out, takes him out. Toxic Babes does the job. And we have overtime on our hands on this second map.
That's 2 4Ks from Doki in the last 3 rounds, so kudos to Doki for doing that. It was a bit of a bummer for fans of Navi that he wasn't able to get the ace either time. For us, it would have been nice to be able to actually voice an ace here in the group stages. In terms of ace, at least there's one on every single day, but he just casts with Dezichu. So, different kind of ace. Navi, who just spent the previous 6 rounds on defense, will now defend twice in overtime. I'd like to remind everybody that there is no unlimited OT for these group stage games. Unlimited OT does not kick in until the grand finals. So Navi will go back to a side that they're already settled into. They're very comfortable here and only dropping a single round on attack on both halves. This greatly benefits Navi.
Yeah, that it does. It's not a lie, it's the truth and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God. MIBR.
Do you believe in that kind of thing?
I mean, whatever you believe in, I believe in siege supremacy. Right? That's my religion.
What about APAC supremacy?
Oh, that's Dev's thing.
What about Doki supremacy?
In this match in particular, I cannot be a biased caster, but I will say as a spectator, as a fan of Siege, I am loving what Doki is proving right now for himself and his team. 15 on Clubhouse, 14 right now on Chalet, and he has arguably almost single-handedly brought Navi back into this map, into OT. So yes, Doki supremacy. Although he's very short, he does tell a very tall story. Right? It is.
My. Speaking of, Doki, if you want to use the word short, you can use it to describe his lifespan in this round. Picked off immediately by Raps. Doki, wanting an early pick, puts himself in that danger zone. He pays for it. Raps almost falls, but giving a kill to a 7 and 10 buck to keep in this game, to allow that skeleton key to keep going versus gambling your star player who has single-handedly won you at least 3 rounds by my count is not where you want to be if you're Navi, and now the dominoes will start to fall. It was first Doki, now secretly will join. Navi putting in all this work just for Doki to die early, and now the strat might just be going kaput.
That's the issue, is that Doki went for an early aggressive spawn peek kind of gunplay, and that doesn't really mean that that means that there is no help to be found but Blur. Oh, nice shot, last bullet, one-shot headshot onto Falls, impacts the wall, goes for the swing, does a little bit of damage but doesn't find anything else, and now he chooses to fall off, but the nade, it bounces off the wall, and Lukid on that trophy window will make sure that Blur does not get back to side. Well done, Lukid.
What the heck are we witnessing here right now?
Madness.
Just an absolutely insane sequence in front of our very own eyes, and Navi, who had already trailed, don't come out any better for it. Though I will say, picking off Falls, again, your only hard breacher, that's pretty good. And this is a bomb site that absolutely needs hard breach. We're looking at a basement round, a defense for Navi where all of these reinforced walls are now going to stay intact.
Yep. I mean, it's curious that Navi isn't completely on side. Nave is up above, and if he can get a kill or two, that's gonna bode very well for Navi. Finds Philippox defused on the ground, and now instantly runs back to side. Might get cut off from verticality, but no, Raps doesn't find the kill, and now 2v3 is very doable for Navi, but MIBR, they have a whole minute to work with. They need to push either all people from the same door or split out on 3 doors total, because they need to overwhelm Navi on the bomb site. There is no heart breach.
Raps with low HP will be the meat shield now, walking down blue stairs. The Yana's not too far off. Lukid will be the one with diffuser in his hand as well. There's a flash in front of saves, and Rayduct will look for a blind. Can't connect with anything. They've dropped the mirror window. Nath is on the ground, but his opportunity missed, firing away. He doesn't hit anything. There's still a reinforced wall there, so he doesn't have to worry about the bullet pen, but he gets swung on, and like that, Raps picks up both of the kills. What exactly was witnessed with that pick? Oh, they were literally on top of each other. Alrighty then. Na'Vi, I got some questions about that round, but MIBR now on match point.
It is a cold map. There is snow, so one can assume freezing temperatures, which
Maybe
means
huddling together to stay
huddling
warm?
together in the basement, making sure that if we go down together, and we will stay tucked and warm. It looked good for Navi for a second. After that terrible beginning, Blur found a kill onto the hard breach of MIBR's Falls, who fell once again. And then Nave, who got that kill, making that 4v2 into a 3 versus 2, actually kind of favored Navi, but then they allowed MIBR too deep into the bomb site, and they are both stuck in the same exact corner, and they are both blinded by that flashbang change we spoke of on Clubhouse, the previous map, where even if you look away, if the flashbang is within 8 meters in the in-game measurement, you will get blinded. That's what we saw, because both Navi players did indeed look away. They flicked to the right of the screen, didn't matter. And Raps, he got 2 absolute free picks. Parker, you mentioned earlier how Thunderbird gets play on maps such as Chalet, and we just needed overtime to get there. Raps have now shown the first Thunderbird in a while, actually. And that means that if any chip damage comes out from Navi, you know, doing like 20, 30, 50 damage or a nade or something like that, they can then comfortably be healed back up to full and be confident that they can keep living and keep going and keep shooting.
All right, well, a little bit of staying power now from the Indigenous Canadian defender of Thunderbird. I feel like a little bit of national pride whenever I see a Buck or a Frost or a Thunderbird get played.
I feel with Nook.
That said, we talked about Thunderbird in the very first map and how she has the ability, especially with the prevalency of grenades, to provide you a second life of sorts, especially if teams are not the most proficient with their nades, dealing a lot of damage but ultimately not killing you. We haven't seen a Thunderbird. It's a bit surprising. There are teams that absolutely adore bringing her on Chalet, especially when you're defending upstairs, because you're going to be sitting in nooks and crannies where you don't have a lot of movement. But I suppose given how fluid, and I will use that word again, both of these teams have been on defense, a Thunderbird doesn't make the most sense if you're going to have most of the action happening off-site, where you're essentially playing to die, get a couple picks. A Thunderbird doesn't necessarily help you. You're better suited by operators that will slow you down or give you more intel.
Yep, that's where we saw Navi bring out the Capcan, and actually worked quite well. They got the dub on that round, and Navi this time will clear from the master bedroom side of things, and MIBR, they're actually not challenging as aggressively as previously. I think they're playing that same style where relying on Navi, taking their time, playing it safe. We are in OT. If you thought the previous rounds were tense and stressful for the players, imagine it now. But stressful it is when you lose your first opening pick. That is Luke it off the board. The nades we spoke about doing so much damage.
Doki has another one as well. He's matched his kill total from Clubhouse. It took him a few more rounds this time to get 15 kills, and he's got a couple more deaths, but I think that just speaks to how close this matchup has been between these two teams. This is the first floor defense. Bar and gaming, as we like to refer to it as, and what seems to be happening in overtime, we're not there yet, but what seems to be happening in overtime that we see so frequently is that it'll be a very defender-sided map, you go to OT, and it completely flips. All of a sudden, the attackers do phenomenally well, which for Na'Vi is a problem because they go on to defense if they win this round. The round is not over yet. They pick off Wamai, they pick off Lukid. He's a player that can consistently top frag, and I mean, that's it. It's Wamai. There are passive and active gadgetry involved with him, so it's not a particularly crucial blow. Doki picks up kill number 2. He's starting to heat up. And a 2-piece from Doki. Nath finds Rayduct. Effectively, this is over as now Raps is down. And Velopox in a 1v5 with 30 seconds to go will be denied. A 3-piece from Doki. All it takes for Na'Vi to win, it's pretty simple, is Doki kills more than one person, and that's it. Na'Vi wins the round. All 15 are needed, with both of these teams now on match point, but Na'Vi on series point.
Not just a round where Doki gets more than one kill, but a flawless one, speaking to the volume of Na'Vi playing together as a team. They were all 5 players in the same half of the map. It was that master bedroom of his push over. The nade did a really good job taking Wamaya out of the equation. That's the Magnus out of that as well, which means nades becomes more lethal. You can't really stay in corners. MIBR, the areas where they were moving, that's where they died. Nave got the flanker, and that basically meant there was a 5 versus 2 with one of those players on MIBR being in the basement. And when you're that far off the bomb site, well, you can't really help your teammate. He fell, and then 7-7. We are going the entire distance. And as you said, in OT, somehow, someway, attackers are favored where previously it was the other way around, with defenders were winning every single round but one on both side swaps. Bar, again, will define the fate of the final round. We saw what happened with MIBR. It didn't look pretty. Navi says we can do better.
I don't know which team is honestly going to come out ahead. If you're Navi, you have to prep for either your day being done or settling in for a heartbreaking defeat and another map. Going over to Oregon, by the way, which has not been played by MIBR here at the Six Invitational, but has been played by Navi, and they prevailed 7-4 over Team 1. So both of these teams will have to manage their energy. No more different than you and I will have to as casters for these series, because we are either 3 minutes away from this series being over, or we are roughly an hour away from this series being over. What I will say is that while the level of siege that we've witnessed has not been as high as other series, this has been a cutthroat set of rounds. 7-5 on Clubhouse, and now no matter what, it will be an 8-7 scoreline here on Chalet. And the definition of Chalet that we've seen so far has been how loose the defense have been. Navi committed some errors on their very first defense on overtime. They cannot repeat those mistakes.
No, they cannot. And this time around, just like when MIBR defended Bar, it's more structured from both teams. Almost every player of MIBR is on the same side of the map, with the exception of Felipox. Similar story for Navi. There is one player on side of Secretly, Doki's roaming inside of Kitchen, and 3 players up in Library. So similar story being told on both sides. MIBR actually gonna get a little bit more widespread now. They want more map control. I like this from them, but it will come down to how they clear the utility. Can they clear the chimney position, kill that Wamai, just like Navi did so easily in the previous round?
The only bomb site that MIBR prevailed on when they were on attack was Kitchen, and that's not where we are at the moment. So there's not a lot we can glean from the history of Chalet, because the attackers have only won 4 rounds, and 2 of them have come in overtime so far. A total of 2 grenades, 3 grenades go in, doing extensive damage to the floorboards, but the structural integrity of Chalet will remain intact, as will both teams. Nobody dying from Navi, nobody dying from MIBR. Nathan on Library Stairs, he's got a deployable shield in front of him. If you want to take command of the part of the bomb sites that you often need to get the diffuser down in, then Nath has to be shaken off of this spot.
Yeah, and this is that stalemate situation where MIBR, they're taking their time, and that's usually how they lose these rounds. They need to start getting really quickly on their feet and start picking up some kills. Falls is alive this time around. They can breach the hatch. Nath will be the first person to get contact.
And he's got a ton of magnets around him. He knows that there's a Flores drone coming in. The Rotero will claim the shield and potentially a magnet to boot. Secretly got the lead-off pick on the Falls. You said Falls was still alive, but they lose the hard breach, but then win the fight onto Nate. They've got some map control. Rayduct is next to fall at the hands of Blur. Navi regains the advantage. 30 seconds for MIBR to find their footing. They've got soft destruction, but they are down in numbers and will be even down further when they get the diffuser planted. But they don't have access to it, by the way. They have to retrieve it, because when Falls died, the diffuser dropped. Raps picks it up. The Buck leaping in the window into the smoke will take some damage, surely. 10 seconds to go, and Raps has the diffuser. He walks in, but is downed, and now Saves also firing up. It's Felipox to doom himself and his team. Navi desperately needed the win, and they get it in really, really tense fashion. Are you a fan of Navi? Do you enjoy heart palpitations? Because if you enjoy your team winning, the heart palpitations come with it. A hell of a time for Navi to pick up their first win. And now they wait to see what happens with Team 1 against OXG on the other broadcast. It's 2-0 for the EU team.
Doki supremacy. We said it before, I'll say it again, and Navi getting their first victory of the Six Invitationals 2022. They need it so badly. In case you guys didn't know, right now, it's most likely a team between Team 1 or Navi to go out, and with Navi winning, that puts them in a much, much better position to continue on in this event. But we'll see, as there are more games to go today, and of course as well tomorrow. But Navi can be very happy. Europe as a region can be happy that another team has now shown up and is officially on the scoreboard with some points.
So, Navi are the masters of their own fate at the moment. Team 1 are playing in their last match of the group stage against Oxygen, and for those of you that haven't been following it, we are going to spoil what has happened so far, because it is important for us to talk about it in the greater sense of this group. It is currently 1-1 for both teams. Team 1 won their map 8-7, and by I believe it was 7-5, OXG wins their map. So a third map is required between these two teams. If Team 1 loses here, by my math, that should be it for their run, and we will say goodbye to the very first team at the Six Invitational. This group has been extremely top-heavy. Damwon Kia clinched their spot as the #1 seed yesterday. They're in action again tomorrow. They have the day off today, but we might end up saying goodbye to Team 1 if they don't prevail in this third map.
Not only does it suck to say goodbye to teams, we would love to have everybody here the entire duration, but there has to be one winner in the end. But it's crazy to think that Team 1 goes from winning in Mexico to getting grouped at Six Invitationals half a year later. That's kind of unheard of. Normally when a team is up on the top, they stay there for a bit, or in this case, they drown.
Well, we might be done here, and we're going to be tossing on over to the command center at some point. But if you want to see more Rainbow Six Siege, then I'd strongly encourage you to tune into the OXG Team 1 matchup, because it is an exhilarating third map about to begin. I know that you and I are going to be watching it, and the stakes that these teams already had, with OXG looking to finish in the top 2 of their group and Team 1 staving off elimination from their group, boy oh boy, both of these teams are going to have a ton of pressure. And I don't know if they're informed of the results before going into map 3. We have no idea if Team 1 will be aware that Na'Vi wins their map and their match 2-0.
It's a good point.
If that's the case, Ali Mao and the Team 1 guys tweeted out that this was the last dance. We can only assume what that means, but this might be the last dance at SI for Team 1 if they don't win. That said, Na'Vi wins 2-0. If you are following along, we've got tons more Rainbow Six action to come. Sit tight. We have a short break, and then we'll be back with some more.